Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Enjoy the fanfic, and let's begin part 4. The three burst into the treetops, traveling at Jonin level speeds towards the famed leaf. Meanwhile in Konoha, Naruto prepared breakfast in his kitchenette and got ready for the big day ahead. Taking a quick shower, he went out to prepare for his wedding. The location, which was currently being decorated, was the Hokage Mansion event hall. After that, reviewing the plans for his wedding, the orange beam of the leaf went to the Hokage's office for a short reminder on etiquette while waiting for the foreign dignitaries to arrive. Hokage's office, 12 o'clock. A knock on the door echoed before I and his party walked into the room. Tsunade and Naruto stood up politely in greeting, then the two Kages shook hands. Everyone sat down and the both leaders began discussing and affirming the terms of the marriage and alliance while the three Jinchuriki started a conversation. Once they were done, Tsunade allocated them a presidential suite in a high-class hotel. According to tradition, the bride and groom were not allowed to see each other on the wedding day until the ceremony itself. By allowing them to meet, they had already tempted fate. However, this merely increased their longing to be together, in the loving embrace of each other's arms. Before they parted, Naruto had given her a short kiss. It still lingered on the lovers' lips as they went about the rest of their day preparing for the big ceremony. With Yugito, after unpacking her belongings at the Lunar Flower Hotel, she left to shop for a wedding dress. Fortunately, or unfortunately, for her, she was intercepted by Yamanaka Ino, who offered to help her get a dress. They met up with Sakura, who just left the Hokage's office. She joined in and they became fast friends as they had already met during the Chunin exams. So, Naruto is gonna be married to you tonight. I'm so excited, Ino said with a dreamy look in her eyes. Yugito shook her head, amused as Ino was clearly thinking about her own future wedding. Sakura spoke up. Since you're marrying my teammate, there are many things I must let you know about him. His personality, his training attitude, his likes and dislikes all got revealed to Yugito. And that's what you'll need to win his heart. Take care of him for me, will ya? Sakura requested. Yugito nodded as she entered the shop to begin the search. For the next hour or so, both Kunoichi from Konoha helped her pick a dress that would charm Naruto. Ino giggled as she picked one up and showed it to the bride. That's just beautiful, Yugito exclaimed. Gleefully, she tried it on and it looked well on her. I'm getting this, she said. Ino smiled. Great choice. Now we'll go get you a flower from my shop to complement this. Earlier with Naruto. Naruto, please get me Nara Shikamaru, Hyuga Neji, Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura and Yuki Haku, she ordered, reading from a list. Hi, Hokage-sama. Naruto complied, kneeling down on one knee with his head down as a symbol of respect and obedience. A bright orange light enveloped him as he disappeared, leaving behind no trace. He first went to find Shikamaru and Neji as their clan compounds were closer to his. Afterwards he searched for his other teammates and the snow girl. You guys have been summoned by the Hokage, he said after gathering all of them. I don't know what for, but we'll see. The sixth body flickered to the Hokage's office where Tsunade was waiting. She cleared her throat. Nara Shikamaru, Hyuga Neji, Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, Yuki Haku and Uzumaki Naruto. You all have been promoted to Chunin of Konoha. Shikamaru, you've been promoted due to your strategic mindset in the battlefield. Despite forfeiting, we are aware that you're simply lazy, so your promotion is a chance to rectify that. I hope you will use this as a chance to prove yourself. The Nara sighed. Neji, in spite of your loss to Naruto, I believe Hiashi has already helped to remove that stick up your. Apart from your attitude, your combat skills are Chunin level. It'd better stay that way. Neji folded his arms and grunted. Uchiha Sasuke, though your fight wasn't complete, it was obvious you were winning due to your superior speed and element. You even learned Kakashi's Chidori. Impressive for a genin, I would say. That's not including your Sharingan, so you can see why I chose to promote you. Also, your teamwork with Team 7 is a model to how other squads should be. Sasuke smirked. Sakura, your promotion, despite your inevitable loss to Yugito due to her Jinchuriki status, was recommended as your book smarts and teamwork were exemplary during the first and second test. During the third test, you showed proficiency in medical ninjutsu, managing to attack Ino's pressure points and heal yourself and others. Also, You utilized chakra-enhanced strength. Interesting. Sakura blushed from all the praise she was getting from her idol. Haku. You were promoted because you displayed intelligence and mastery of your Kekkei Genkai. Not to mention, you were, from reports, the one that taught Sakura about pressure points and Senbon usage. I am utterly impressed with your knowledge of Iryo Ninjutsu, as well as your high speed for both movement and hand seals. Therefore I award you with the rank of Chunin. Haku bowed deeply in gratitude. Arigato, Hokage-sama. Last but not least, Naruto. Your intelligence in the first test was astounding. According to Ibiki, you got all questions correct without cheating and you even hid the test paper. In the second test you displayed your teamwork, as well as prowess in your dojutsu, fuinjutsu and bukijutsu, forcing the likes of Orochimaru to retreat. In the third test, you showed your taijutsu skills as well as the opening of the gates, although I personally discourage that. Not only that, in the finals you used the Hiraishin and Rasengan, your father's signature moves and some of your own, which paved the way for your entry in the bingo book. You also, to put it crudely, beat the crap out of every single invader. Then you went on to assist Sarutobi-sensei by sealing away my grandfather and granduncle, as well as defeating Orochimaru and screwing up his arms. Then you came and retrieved me while fending off Orochimaru and Kabuto. So for that you're not getting promoted to Chunin. Naruto raised his eyebrow. You're getting a double promotion to Jonin, announced Tsunade. Everyone in the room gasped. Congratulations, Naruto. Most of the people said. So now I'll be issuing your flak jackets. You may choose to wear what you want underneath, but the standard is either a black or blue Uzumaki jumpsuit, Tsunade said, carrying on. Wearing them is not mandatory except on missions and on collaborations with shinobi from other villages. Choose your colors. Black, said Shikamaru, Neji, Sasuke and Naruto. Blue, Sakura and Haku requested. All right then. Congratulations on all your promotions, you are dismissed, she said after giving them all their attire. Sakura and Haku stayed back, however, to hopefully receive Tsunade's tutelage as Iryo Nin. Good job Naruto, said Sasuke, who bumped fists with him. How are things going with you and Haku? He blushed. Good. Naruto smiled and patted his back. Good job brother. Don't screw up. Sasuke gave him a look. That should be my line, considering your wedding today. Both laughed aloud before going on their separate paths. Naruto went home to keep his new uniform and prepare for the wedding. Sasuke, as his best man, was also doing so. He put on his suit and went to Naruto's house to assist him in the preparations. Here's the guest list Naruto, said Sasuke as he handed over a piece of paper. Tsunade and I are the guests of honor. The whole Konoha 13 will be there as well as the clan heads and Killer Bee, Naruto summarized from what he read. Sasuke gave a small smile as that number was about to change soon, though Naruto was unaware. Naruto, I need to get something. I'll be back in about 30 minutes, Sasuke informed. Naruto raised an eyebrow. 30 minutes. He shrugged and said, go ahead. In a swirl of leaves the Uchiha vanished. Hagakure Tool Shop. Konnichiwa. How can I help you? Asked Tenten cheerfully as she spotted Sasuke entering the store. The Uchiha gave one of his famous Uchiha smirks. I'm looking for a simple but good Chikudo, straight sword. With Yugito. Having bought her dress, she chose both of them as her bridesmaids and Sakura as the maid of honor. Both Ino and Sakura had to acquire dresses of their own. They still had 3 hours till reception started, more than enough time. With Sasuke. This one looks good, commended Sasuke, pointing to a simple black Chikudo. It had a rectangular black scabbard and a matching hilt, both of which had a concave line running through the middle. You have good taste. Although simple looking, this sword is razor sharp and the blade was crafted with chakra metal, meaning you can conduct your chakra through it. It's very durable and can withstand explosions from our store's tags, which, mind you, are powerful, she said, thinking about Naruto's tandem explosive tags which he sold to them. Sasuke picked it up and unsheathed the blade. It slid out silently, perfect for a shinobi, and shone under the lights of the shop. It hummed silently, almost like it was beckoning to him. He placed his finger on the sharp edge of the blade. Immediately, a small incision appeared, stinging slightly. He laughed inwardly as Haku would surely chide him for being careless but heal him regardless. How much is this? A little pricey. 1 million ryo, Tenten replied. Sasuke nodded. That was roughly the price of restocking 1,000 weapons. I'll take it, he said. Tenten packed the Chikudo in a plastic wrap and handed it to him after he paid for it. Now to find Haku to get his finger healed. With Naruto. I'm back, called Sasuke from the main gate. Naruto let him in and they continued on their planning. So what were you getting anyways? Naruto asked. The Uchiha replied mysteriously, for me to know and for you to find out. Okay, Naruto said in slight suspicion. Well, obviously this was not something to use his human path or Naraka path over, so he would just leave it be. Wedding reception, 5 o'clock. Take a seat please, Sasuke ushered. It just started, but he already found the job boring. Well, anything for his best buddy. Wedding ceremony, 5:30 p.m. And now, we shall partake in this ceremony of the union between Konohagakure's Uzumaki Naruto and Kumogakure's ni Yugito. May their marriage be loving and long-lasting, said Tsunade, the MC, receiving a round of applause. Let me introduce the maiden of honor, Haruno Sakura, and the best man, Uchiha Sasuke, the Hokage continued. The two walked up onto the stage. Next, we have the bridesmaids, Yamanaka Ino, Yukari Tenten and Yuki Haku. For the groomsmen, we have Nara Shikamaru, Hyuga Neji and Inazuka Kiba. Naruto sighed in relief, thinking, thank Kami-sama I didn't choose Lee. Last but not least, we have ni Yugito, the bride, and Uzumaki Naruto, the groom, Tsunade announced. The two entered from opposite-facing doors. Naruto noticed Yugito, who was very beautiful in her wedding dress. It was a sleeveless and backless floor-length gown with a flared skirt and a long trail behind it. It hugged her body, showing off her curves and her creamy legs, as well as her delicately braided hair. Sasuke shall now give a short speech, as tradition dictates, Tsunade said, handing over the microphone to the Uchiha. I've been friends with Naruto for quite a while, being teammates and all, but one thing I can be sure of is that he can be kind of a dumbass at times. Naruto gave an offended look. However, don't let that fool you. Deception is, after all, the greatest tool of the shinobi. So I have only one thing to say to Naruto before he gets married. Don't screw up. That's all, he said, smirking as he handed the mic back to Tsunade. Laughter ensued from the crowd and Naruto blushed. And now, we shall officially wed the two in this solemn union that shall strengthen the bilateral ties between both Hai no Kuni and Kaminari no Kuni. Please exchange the cups. Sasuke and Sakura filled ceremonial cups with sake and passed them to Naruto and Yugito respectively. The couple then exchanged their cups and drank from them, after which they handed the cups back to their attendants. Ni Yugito, do you take Uzumaki Naruto as your lawfully wedded husband, and that you will stick with him through thick and thin? I do, she replied without hesitation. I, ni Yugito, take you, Uzumaki Naruto, to be my husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, from this day forward until death do us part. Uzumaki Naruto, do you take ni Yugito to be your lawfully wedded wife, the partner for the rest of your life? Tsunade asked. Naruto nodded. I do, he said. I, Uzumaki Naruto, take you, ni Yugito, to be my wife, my friend, my faithful partner and my love from this day forward. In the presence our family and friends, I offer you my solemn vow to be your faithful partner in sickness and in health, in good times and in bad, and in joy as well as in sorrow. I promise to love you unconditionally, to support you in your goals, to honor and respect you, to laugh with you and cry with you, and to cherish you for as long as we both shall live. Not even death will do us part, he vowed, his eyes briefly morphing into the exalted Rinnegan before Tsunade and Yugito. His eyes reverted as the Hokage ordered, exchange the rings. Sasuke opened a small box containing both rings and handed them over to the bride and groom. Naruto bent down and slipped the dual ring around Yugito's finger. It was a golden band with 9 diamonds, one big and central with the other 8 surrounding it. The inner side was inscribed with their names and the Hiraishin Jutsu Shiki, as well as a storage seal. With a flare of chakra, the rings could open to shoot fire. Yugito admired its beauty before she picked up the matching ring and slid it onto Naruto's finger. The bridegroom stood up straight formally before Tsunade announced, with the power vested in me as Hokage, I declare Uzumaki Naruto and ni Yugito husband and wife. You may now kiss the bride. Naruto leaned in and planted a chaste kiss on her lips, but the look she gave him after they split up told him that there would be more after the wedding. A lot more. The crowd burst into a huge cacophony of applause. The cake was then cut and distributed among the people, who later went through a full-course dinner and a dance section. By the end of the whole wedding, everyone was happy. It was now 8:30 and everyone was ready to go home. The crowd dispersed from the Hokage Mansion event hall one by one and the hall was empty within 10 minutes. Tsunade dispatched some of her lower-ranking shinobi to clean up the area, much to most of their chagrin. Meanwhile, Yugito and Naruto were enjoying themselves, getting lost in the vast sea of stars in the black sky. "It's beautiful beyond belief," she said in awe. Naruto nodded in agreement. "They are. Now let's get your stuff from the hotel and move over to my humble abode. Shall we?" he asked, sticking out his arm for her to take. Yugito laughed, a sweet laugh that Naruto would cherish for the future. "Quite the gentleman, Whiskers-kun." Naruto raised an eyebrow at the nickname but decided that he wouldn't reply. Yugito snickered softly. "That is a cute name." Naruto sighed and shook his head. Grabbing her bridal style instead, he sped forward through the streets of Konoha. "Lunar Flower Hotel, right?" he said, holding her even closer to his body as he weaved through crowds of civilians and shinobi in the bustling village. Naruto set Yugito down just as he reached the front door. She retrieved her key and went into her room. Packing all her stuff, she grabbed her bag and was teleported along with Naruto to the gates of the Namikaze compound. "Namikaze compound. Please draw blood and smear it on this seal," said Naruto when they appeared at the gates. Yugito did so, and it was absorbed into the seal. The fingerprint lock appeared and when Yugito pressed her finger to it, the double gates snapped open. Naruto gave her a short tour of the house, after which she unpacked her stuff in the master bedroom. "I'll go take a bath now. This has been a long day," she said. Naruto nodded and he went to the toilet downstairs to take a short shower to freshen up before going to sleep. Yugito, meanwhile, used the bathroom connected to the master bedroom. Naruto finished his shower first and returned to the bedroom, sitting down on the bed while waiting patiently for his wife. When she exited the bathroom, he was rewarded with the sight of her in her black lingerie. Yugito was blushing heavily, adding to the cute but effect she had on him. Her previously braided hair was now fully down, cascading down her back like a waterfall. The sight made him aroused. Naruto took in the sight of her curves as she approached him seductively. "Naruto-koi, time to resume what we started this morning," she whispered. They began kissing each other, making out like there was no tomorrow. They started by French kissing. Then Naruto began moving down to her neck, making her shiver slightly when he blew lightly on it. With her hands around his neck and his around her waist, they kissed each other passionately for a few minutes. Finally, Naruto couldn't take it anymore. He was horny as heck and Yugito was teasing him. "Whiskers-kun, you don't have to be that enthusiastic to consummate our marriage, ya know," she said. His lustful eyes told a different tale. "Warning. Begins here. Please skip to the next morning, if you are uncomfortable reading it." Yugito took off his shirt as their passion increased, revealing his six-pack to her eyes. She slid her fingers slowly across it, feeling the smooth skin that hid hard muscle underneath. Her eyes widened when she saw the monster hiding in his pants, waiting to be unleashed. She blushed heavily. Did Naruto want her that badly? As if he reading her mind, he replied, "I don't want you. I need you, Yugito Heim." The suffix made her blush and for once she felt she was worthy. Naruto unclasped her bra as soon as she consented. Double D cup were uncovered, and she blushed once again as she felt exposed. Her were hard, a sure sign of her arousal that Naruto detected when his hands came in contact. Naruto gently squeezed her perky, feeling how soft and warm they were. His actions earned a soft moan from Yugito, which reminded him. After forming a few hand seals, silencer tags appeared throughout the whole house. As he squeezed and experimented with her, Yugito was having a hard time breathing. She was experiencing pleasure that she never had before. She felt like she was in heaven. Naruto wrapped 2 fingers around each and began rolling them, making her breath hitch. She had this weird but enjoyable feeling in her as he continued his ministrations. Eventually, He stopped much to her dismay, but that was short-lived as Naruto latched his mouth to her left and began sucking on it. His right hand was still massaging her other. His tongue swirled expertly round her, making her moan in pleasure. All of a sudden, milk shot out from her and into his mouth and on the bed. Swallowing it, he licked his lips satisfactorily. You taste good, Haim. Naruto then realized he was leaving an important part unattended, her womanhood. Taking a good look, he teased, "You're so wet, Yugito-chan." She was embarrassed and turned away as Naruto took off her soaked panties. While continuing to entertain her voluptuous chest with his mouth and right hand, his left hand's fingers slid into her vagina, making a pumping motion. She started moaning loudly. As he increased the speed of his ministrations, so did her moans in epic proportions. At this rate, the silencer tags wouldn't be sufficient. She climaxed within minutes and Naruto brought his fingers up to his mouth, savoring the sweet taste of her love juices. "I want a feast," he whispered into her ear, turning her on ever so slightly. He released her and gripped her butt with her hands instead, pressing her womanhood against his mouth. His tongue shot into her walls, exploring while lapping up all the juices around it. Yugito groaned, gripping the back of his head while unknowingly pushing him further into her vagina. Naruto's tongue reached a nub, and he grinned unnoticeably before attacking it viciously. Yugito screamed aloud in extreme pleasure as her lover attacked her G-spot without mercy. An orgasm occurred immediately, and her walls began flooding with her juices, which were quickly drank up by Naruto. It tasted like a combination of milk and honey. Naruto smiled. Yugito sighed as she came down from her high, before grinning playfully. My turn. With a single roll, she was over him. She pulled off his pants and underwear. Naruto's slid out. It had a wide girth, something which Yugito marveled at as she could just barely wrap her hand around it. Without hesitation, her mouth. The warm and wet feeling which enveloped his member made him moan out in pleasure as her tongue swirled around his huge head. Meanwhile, her hand pumped his manhood while she bobbed her head up and down. The fact that she was humming and sending vibrations down his didn't help to contain his orgasm. He came into her mouth, and the large ropes of semen had to be swallowed quick or they would overflow. As it went down her throat, she gave a big smile. You taste good as well, Goshujin-sama. Yugito teased. I love you so much, Haim. She knew, the depth of his love was much deeper than any ocean she'd heard of. Yugito answered lovingly, I love you too, Naruto-koi. I want you inside me. Are you sure? He whispered. He did not wish to pressure her. She nodded without hesitation and laid down on her back. Naruto lay down on top of her such that her were in contact with his chest. Slowly, he slid his into her vagina. He felt an obstruction. Her hymen. She looked at him with a look of assurance before Naruto penetrated it, creating a sharp cry of pain from Yugito. Worried, he stopped his actions while waiting for Yugito to recover from losing her virginity. I'm fine now, she said after about 20 seconds. Naruto nodded and began thrusting in and out of her. As time passed by, so did his speed. Yugito was moaning out in pleasure. She could feel his manhood inside her, filling all her walls. Her walls were wrapping around his almost as if they were pulling him in. The friction caused by the intensive rubbing heated both their genitalia, making the lovers feel waves of pleasure rippling through their body. Yugito's moans were getting louder. Darling, if you keep this up, you'll wake up the whole neighborhood. Naruto teased as he pounded into her. His wife pouted. Use your tags or something. He weaved through hand seals quickly. A giant array of tags surrounding the walls lit up before disappearing, ensuring no sound would escape as they made love to each other. She was almost drunk on the pleasure she felt. Me harder. She screamed, her crude request reaching her husband's ears. Naruto smirked. Now I'll have to punish you for using such rude words. He complied and thrusted as hard and as deep as he could into her vagina. Naruto's balls slapped against her lips, it was fully sheathed within her. His head came in contact with the nub he had attacked with his tongue earlier, making Yugito scream out as the giant spike of intense pleasure hit her. The feeling was indescribable. Faster. Faster. She pleaded and Naruto did as told. His speed increased tremendously, causing both lovers to groan out in highly moans that filled the room along with the lewd sound of skin slapping against skin. Naruto kept hitting her on the same spot and it wasn't long before both climaxed. I'm coming, she cried. Me too. Naruto replied and thrusted even harder in an attempt to bridge the gap between their orgasms. Her walls tightened around his and her vagina began flooding with her juices as she came. The hot liquid and tight around his became unbearable for him as he came just 2 seconds later. Ah! Naruto cried as he ejaculated, his semen mixing with her love juices. His sperm shot into her womb and flooded it fully. Yugito's stomach bloated slightly. That was quite the session, she said, panting hard. It ain't over, he said, grinning. His was still erect, unbelievably. Her eyes widened as he flipped her over and shoved his member up her tight. I'm gonna you good, Heim. Yugito was in no mood to complain as a weird form of pleasure filled her anus. Naruto pounded her hard for a good 5 minutes before he orgasmed into her, flooding it as he had done with her. Yugito said, my turn, Goshujin-sama. She rolled both of them and they swapped positions. Mounting him, she positioned her vagina just above his before dropping on his rod, which penetrated her fully. Then grabbing his shoulders, she used them to ride him like there was no tomorrow. His continuously rubbed against her G-spot, eliciting loud moans from her. Naruto closed his eyes as he came for the 3rd time that night, straight into her amazing. Both sighed in pleasure as they came down from their extreme orgasms. Wait till you see this. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto called. 5 clones burst into existence. She was about to be gang-banged, and she knew it. A clone grabbed her after lying down, making her enter a reverse cowgirl position. His entered her. She then laid down on top of him. The next clone sat on the bed above her head, his balls dangling in front of her face. His was shoved into her throat upside down, forcing her to deep throat him. The 3rd clone sat on her chest, his placed in between her large. The 4th and 5th clones stood on either side of the bed, their members grabbed by Yugito's hands for a handjob. Lastly, the original sat down in between her legs before sliding his into her. Grabbing both legs, he started the fest by using them to push into her vagina. The other clone started her body as well. The clone having anal looped his hands around her forearms, restraining her as the rest began to have with her. The clone getting the blowjob grabbed her jaw and used it as leverage to shove his even deeper down her throat. The clone her latched onto her and pressed them together as he thrusted his member in between her double Ds. The two getting handjobs had their pumped quickly as her whole body was rocking back and forth due to the other clone's intensive love-making. This feeling of getting all her holes filled surpassed any previous forms of pleasure she had felt. She didn't fantasize that Naruto would do this kind of thing. She orgasmed within minutes, and orgasmed hard as she attained extreme bliss. Naruto and all his clones did so in sync, their semen flying all over and in her body. Sperms shot into her throat and anus, courtesy of Naruto and his 2 clones. The others ejaculated onto her neck and body, effectively resulting in a sperm bath. It dried quickly under the cooling temperature of the night, so she wouldn't bother showering till tomorrow morning. Besides, she was already so tired from the whole workout. Naruto dispelled all his clones and their memories returned to him, making him quite horny, but he decided that they had done enough for the night. He pulled up the blanket around themselves, and with his still in her, they slept in an intimate embrace. The next morning, Naruto yawned slightly as woke up, also rousing his wife. Morning, beautiful, he greeted. Ohio, she replied, stretching as she got up. Since we are all ready, how about a bath? Suggested Naruto. Together, she asked. He smirked. What are you implying, Heim? She yelped as his hands suddenly wrapped around her bare back and legs as she was carried bridal style into the bathroom. Sweden. Mizoripa, he said without hand seals, filling the bathtub without bothering to turn on the tap. He jumped her in the water and they engaged in more activities in the bath. When both exited, they could say it was the best shower in their lives. Kitchen. Yugito-chan, I'll look for Sasuke and thank him now for being my best man. Naruto announced, suiting up. Yugito nodded. Sure. Just don't take too long. I'm making breakfast and I don't want you have it cold. Alright, he replied. See you honey. He planted a kiss on her cheek and left the house. Uchiha compound. Naruto knocked on the gates. Yo Sasuke. Anybody home? He knocked again after receiving no reply. Oi, you asleep or something? He knocked repeatedly and still received no reply. Sighing, he decided to go check it out. His eyes turned into Mangekyo as he phased through the door and into the quiet estate. He searched around and still, nothing. What the hell happened? He went into the main house and entered, finding no one inside. He went to Sasuke's room. Though it was rude, he had to know what happened to his friend. Could he been out? His room was simple, but it was quite empty. He had even left his wallet in the house, something he knew he would carry along with him if he was out. What the heck? Unless Sasuke left the village. It was possible, but unlikely. But that was the only thing that could explain his absence. Naruto's hands formed the reverse ram hand seal as he shouted, Kagura no Shingen. Sasuke's chakra trail was relatively fresh, but his signature was definitely not in Konoha. Masaka, he said to himself in disbelief. He had really left the village, and it was definitely not on a mission. Meanwhile with Sasuke, the Uchiha treaded across the fields, heading towards Oto no Kuni, Land of Sound. He had received information that it was Orochimaru's base. That was where he would become stronger, and achieve his secondary objective. With Naruto informing his wife shortly, he activated Mugen Meisai and sneaked past the village gates, heading onto the chakra trail that Sasuke had left behind. He would chase him down to the ends of the earth. Now where is he headed to? Thought Naruto as he sprinted along the same path Sasuke did by tracking his chakra trail. It was relatively fresh. He would catch up if he sped up. Don't tell me he's gone to find Itachi. Thought Naruto. This trail is heading to the border between Hai no Kuni and Oto no Kuni. From what he learned of geography, there was a single valley in between both lands, marking the Fire Sound border. It was the location of Hashirama and Madara's fight where Madara died. So it seemed Sasuke was heading for the Land of Sound. Kuchiyos. Akane, he said as he swiped his blood from his thumb and pressed it to the floor. A black summoning array shot out from his hand. In a burst of smoke, the fox appeared. Ohio, Akane-chan. I'm sorry I need you for a ride now. The summon nodded. It's okay. Where to? Shumatsu no Tani, Valley of the End. After mounting her, the fox zipped into the forests following her natural orientation towards the Land of Sound. The surroundings blurred into a palette of colors as they sped past. Sasuke. What are you up to? With Sasuke, the Uchiha heir took a short break. He had been sprinting at full speed for nearly an hour and desperately needed water. He tapped his storage seal and a canteen of water appeared. Uncapping it, he took a long swig of water. Sighing as he was rehydrated, he wondered if anyone else had discovered if he was missing. The first person that he thought of was Naruto. If anyone would detect his absence, it would be that blonde teammate of his. Who knows, he might even be on his tail as of now. He smirked and resealed his canteen before bursting into a sprint. With Naruto, the Valley of the End was still 100 kilometers ahead. At their current speed, they would arrive in 30 minutes. The forests of Konoha disappeared, transforming into barren stretches of land which ran for a few miles before becoming small villages. Then it became a huge expanse of grassland. Akane slowed down and stopped to take a breather. Are you okay, Akane-chan? He asked worriedly. No problem, Naruto-san, she answered in pants. Naruto shook his head. You're not fine. You need a soldier pill. She wanted to protest, but was too tired to do so. Her blonde summoner popped a pill in her mouth. Go rest up. I'll handle the rest from here, he said benevolently before dispelling her. He took off across the grassland and in 10 minutes, came to another forest. As he approached closer to the edge of the forest, his nose picked up the scent of Sasuke. He was here recently, thought Naruto, about 10 minutes ago. I still have a chance to catch up. With that thought in mind, he ran at full speed towards the valley. After another stretch of barren land and forests, he came to the mountain range bordering both lands. There was only one direct way through, the valley. Valley of the End. It was a giant circular hole in the ground with uniform depth. According to Kurama, it was created during Hashirama and Madara's battle. A single deflected Bijudama had caused it. The mountain range was created by a massive amount of jutsus which slammed the earth together on both sides and created the mountains. The forests nearby were a result of Hashirama's Mokuden. The whole terrain surrounding the Valley of the End was created by the battle. Next to the valley was a huge lake spanning across both lands with a waterfall feeding the valley from it. On either side of the waterfall stood the statues of Madara and Hashirama. The Shadaime was on the Hino Kuni side of the waterfall while Madara was on the other side, symbolizing his defection. When Naruto burst out the forest edge to the sight of this, he gasped. It was beautiful to behold. Right smack in the center of the lake was his target. Sasuke was using chakra to cross the lake. The Uchiha was dressed differently from usual. He was wearing a white long-sleeved shirt which was open at the torso, with a smaller version of the Uchiha crest on his collar. He wore dark blue pants with a blue cloth hanging from halfway up his stomach to his knees along with black arm guards that covered his forearms and stretched up to reach his upper biceps. He also wore a purple rope belt around his waist, tied in a bow, in which there was a black chakudo carried at the back. Uchiha Sasuke. What do you think you are doing by leaving the village? Naruto hollered as he jumped on the lake as well. Sasuke turned back and regarded him coldly. Naruto. Don't get in my way, he warned. Turning around he continued his water walking. Naruto unleashed a volley of shuriken at him from his spot at the edge of the huge lake. Sasuke's right hand shot to his sword hilt and in a quick, deft motion, he unsheathed it and deflected them all. Naruto's eyes widened. You're not the only one who has done training, Naruto, Sasuke said as he sheathed his sword. His speed and reflexes were much faster than before and his chakra was Jonin level. TCH. If you really want to get in my way, I don't mind a fight. I've always wanted to fight you. Show me what you got. Naruto charged across the water to meet him in a taijutsu match. High-speed punches were thrown and dodged, both seemed of equal advantage. Sasuke. Why did you leave the village? Naruto asked as he dodged another punch and went for a leg sweep. The Uchiha jumped and flipped over him to the other side, replying, to seek power from Orochimaru. Naruto drew his kunai and it clashed with Sasuke's chakudo. Sparks went flying everywhere. The adamantine kunai countered the extreme sharpness of the sword. Naruto thought, I have to fight him where it's harder to escape the country. Once he leaves the lake, I'll be in enemy territory and cannot follow him. Thinking quickly, Naruto kicked him skyward towards the valley, and jumped up after him. Kaiman, Kai, Omid Renge, he cried, seizing Sasuke's body as both plunged down the waterfall and into the valley. Naruto frowned. The valley of the end was filled with water from the waterfall. It would break Sasuke's fall as they were plummeting straight down instead of spread eagle. Just as they reached the surface of the water in the valley, he let go and backflipped away as Sasuke entered the water like in a dive. Naruto panted hard as he forcibly closed the first gate. That was why he didn't see the punch coming as Sasuke rocketed out of the water, uppercutting the blonde. Naruto flew back and landed on the water a few meters away. You have more than this, Uzumaki. Show me your true power. Sasuke roared. Kaden. Goryuka no Jutsu. Naruto's eyes widened as multiple giant dragon heads of fire shot at him from Sasuke's mouth. Instinctively, his hands slammed together. Suiden. Sushoha, water style. Water shockwave. Water rose from the surface and formed a vortex around him as the Kaden Jutsu collided with it, creating steam. Naruto got up as the steam disappeared gradually. Sasuke was still standing there, waiting for him. Kaden. Onodoro, fire style. Demon lantern. Naruto called. Floating fireballs appeared around both of them in the shape of ghosts. As much as I like candlelit dinners, this ain't the time for it, Sasuke taunted. Naruto smirked as he jumped far back, his hands going through a flurry of hand seals. Kaden. Kasumi Enbu no Jutsu, fire style. Mist blaze dance jutsu. Naruto shouted, spewing a large stream of flammable gas at the fireballs and Sasuke. The fireballs ignited the gas, which acted as an accelerant to create a firestorm headed for Sasuke. He leapt back and dived into the water. When the fire burnt out, the Uchiha surfaced while grabbing his chakudo. His right hand crackled with Raiden chakra which flowed throughout the sword. Is that the Chidori? Naruto thought. Chidori Koken, Chidori sword. Sasuke cried, plunging the sword into the water. Copious amounts of lightning ran through the water's surface in a wide sweeping arc, making it difficult for Naruto to avoid. Not even the water would shield him now, the entire body of water was electrified. The blonde had only one choice, which was to jump up. Of course, Sasuke had predicted that and leapt up after him. They clashed in midair, the white light chakra saber to the Uchiha's Chikudo. Sasuke pressed forward and planted his foot into Naruto's stomach, launching him into the water. The saber fell out of his hand and into the depths of the water. As he sank into the water, electricity coursed through his body, numbing it. He just felt like sleeping. Sleep. His eyes closed as he sank. Sasuke landed on the water perfectly fine, immune to his own chakra. He replaced his Chikudo within the scabbard. Is Naruto really that weak? He thought. Wake up, Naruto. Kurama screamed. Orange chakra shot out of his body, pushing the water away. The chakra formed a vortex underwater and caught Sasuke's attention. What the heck is that? A figure shot out of the water, which returned to its original place. When it landed, Sasuke gasped. Is that Naruto? Thought Sasuke frantically. Tem. Naruto roared. He disappeared in a blur and reappeared in front the Uchiha, planting a fist into his stomach. The clan heir was thrown back and slammed against the cliff wall. He coughed up blood as the Uzumaki sped towards him, skimming across the water at high speed. He's F.A. Sasuke thought before his arm was grabbed and he was pulled from the wall. Naruto swung him around before throwing him towards the other side of the valley. Sasuke recovered midair and used the wall as a springboard. Kicking off explosively, he leapt towards Naruto with a Chidori in hand. Naruto jumped towards him, a chakra chain shooting out and linking his arms from behind. Just as Sasuke reached Naruto, the Uchiha gasped as he phased right through the Uzumaki, his attack missing him. Then Naruto and the chakra chain materialized again when Sasuke was in between Naruto's back and chain, effectively trapping him. Then Naruto turned back and twisted the chain expertly, forming a loop in which Sasuke was trapped within. The Uchiha noticed the Mangekyo Sharingan adorning Naruto's eyes, that explained his intangibility. In a poof of smoke, Sasuke was replaced with a log and he appeared further away. Naruto growled and pulled on the chain, snapping the log in two. The chain receded. Sasuke's eyes bled into a crimson red, three tomos whirling in each eye as they examined their opponent. Naruto's own Mangekyo reverted to the normal Sharingan. As he charged at Sasuke, his chakra cloak faded. The two teammates clashed in the middle of the valley, fist to fist. That's it, Naruto. Show me your power. Sasuke said, satisfied. Naruto parried another strike away. This is not a game, Sasuke. Why do you want to go to Orochimaru, knowing what he'll do to you? Naruto snarled. Cause he can give me the power I need to defeat Itachi. Sasuke screamed back, a Chidori in his left hand. Naruto's right hand also glowed with Raiden chakra. It was the Sandaime Raikage's jutsu. Jigokuzuki. Yonhan Nukite. Chidori. Both powerful lightning-style jutsus fought each other for power to consume the other. A loud crackling sound ensued, followed a huge explosion of chakra which threw both combatants away from each other. Both flipped and recovered nicely. Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu. Sasuke yelled, throwing a fireball at the Uzumaki. Naruto's eyes warped into a pair of Mangekyo. His right eye glowed as he muttered, Amaterasu. Black flames sprouted in his defense, fending away the fireball with its high intensity. Sasuke panted, canceling the fireball. His chakra was running low, he only had enough for a single Chidori. The curse seal, Sasuke thought. Yes, power. Power and chakra, a sinister voice hissed within his mind, just use it. Sasuke activated the cursed seal, breaking the Fuinjutsu that Naruto had placed upon it. The Fujihoin was reliant on the target's will to stop the Ten no Juin. Chakra flowed into his body, rejuvenating his system. Flame-like markings spread across his body. However, he couldn't waste any more time on this battle and charged at Naruto, who had dispelled the Amaterasu. In Naruto's hand, a Rasengan grew as he charged towards Sasuke, meeting his Rasengan with another one of his own. Chidori. Rasengan. In a last-second maneuver, Sasuke swerved to the side and his Chidori pierced the Uzumaki's chest, avoiding the Rasengan completely. Naruto hacked up blood, a lot of it. Gradually, the Chidori fizzled out on the other side of Naruto's chest. So, you were weak after all, Sasuke whispered. Naruto's bloodied lip curled into a smile. Don't underestimate me. In a burst of smoke, he disappeared. Kuso. Kage Bunshin Ka, Sasuke thought, scrambling for his sword. A shadow fell overhead. It was Naruto, another Rasengan in hand. Take this. The blue orb slammed into the Uchiha's stomach before exploding. Sasuke was badly injured as he emerged from the water. However, the flame-like markings spread over his whole body, turning his skin gray. Matching wings grew out from his back. His hair had grown longer as well, now dark blue. What's th? Naruto started before he was mule-kicked to the top of the waterfall, Sasuke close behind with black electricity crackling ominously around his left hand. Habataku Chidori, flapping Chidori. The Uchiha cried, plunging it into the Uzumaki's chest with far greater speed than before. Both landed on the head of Hashirama's statue. Naruto was severely weakened and was hacking blood from his mouth, which landed on the floor. His hand was still desperately grasping the right side of Sasuke's face, but it was sliding down as he crumpled to the floor. Naruto's blood was traced down the side of the Uchiha's face by his finger. Tensha Fuin. Amaterasu, transcription seal. Amaterasu, Naruto thought before his hand landed on the floor with a thud, his eyes closing as blood pooled on the stone floor. Sasuke spared him once last glance. Tch. I told you not to get in my way. Turning around, he dashed across the lake and into Otogakure. A black and white creature had observed the battle. It was time to report back to Pain. It sank back into the ground. With Naruto. His eyes snapped wide open as he vomited a furry animal. A fox clambered out of his mouth. Then Naruto's limbs turned into foxes, as did his body. His whole body split into foxes which scampered into the forests of Hai no Kuni. Far away, purple eyes observed the scene. The rings converged before the eyes turned into eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, then Sharingan, and lastly the cerulean blue that everyone was used to. I can't do anything about you anymore since you crossed the border, but what I can do is train, if the battle was anything to go by. Besides, I haven't even used my Rinnegan in the battle itself. Or Sage Mode. Oh well, thought Naruto. Even before the start of the battle, he had cast an extremely powerful genjutsu on the valley with his Rinnegan. That was proof that it was stronger than the Sharingan, as the Uchiha did not see through it. He had merely fought an illusion. The only thing was that he hoped that Sasuke knew what he was doing by going to Orochimaru for power. He smirked, as he had already set a surprise in store for the snake Sannin. At the thought of Sannin, he paled as he thought of what Tsunade would do to him when he got back. Better be going back now. With Sasuke. Unknown to the Uzumaki, the Uchiha had been holding back as he already possessed the Mangekyo. However, it was newly acquired and he would have to learn the techniques later. He walked towards the hideout that a guard was escorting him to. Right at the entrance, was the Sannin himself. Orochimaru lips twisted into a maniacal smile. It's been a long while. Sasuke-kun, he greeted. The Uchiha gasped as his right eye suddenly felt painful. It forcefully turned red with 3 toma while the left eye remained onyx. The Magatama swirled and warped to form a new pattern, a snowflake surrounded by stylized petals. A thin line of blood ran down his cheek from his right eye. Masaka. Orochimaru was cut short when black flames sprouted from his shoulder, causing him intense pain. The Sannin screamed, writhing in pain. Sasuke's eye transformed back to normal, making him think, what the heck is going on? The guard pointed his spear at the potential threat. What are you trying to do to Orochimaru-sama? The Sannin, of course, vomited himself out of himself, replacing his burning body. That eye. I recognize that Mangekyo. It was Naruto's, Orochimaru hissed. Bakayaro. Sasuke cursed at Naruto in his mind for screwing up his first impression in front of Orochimaru. Well, I had a battle with him earlier. He must have set this as a trap. Well then, you must be tired. Go in for a rest, we'll begin our training in the evening, ordered Orochimaru. He nodded obediently and entered the hideout. With Naruto. The blonde was running back to Konoha. Kurama admitted grudgingly, you know, Kit. You really worried me back there when you went unconscious in the water. So Kurama, you got caught up in the genjutsu as well? Naruto asked. Don't get you flesh bag. Do not underestimate the power of those eyes, they are not a toy for a fool like you to play with. I was just joking, geez. Chill Kurama. Naruto tried placating him. The fox snarled. You idiot, those eyes can do much more than what you think it can. Have you ever thought of using the Diva Path ability to fly to the Valley of the End instead of tiring out one of my own brethren? Naruto facepalmed mid-step. Though I gotta admit, I respect you for letting Akane rest, the Biju said. Naruto smiled. Thanks Kurama. Don't thank me, you. Naruto cut off the connection, focusing chakra to his eyes. They warped into a pair of Rinnegan. Tendo. Chakra shot out of every pore in his body, propelling him upward and forward. He flew through the forests and grasslands on the way back to Konoha at high speeds. As he rocketed past, he thought of what to say to Tsunade, who he was pretty sure would rage at him. It was an understatement. Hokage's office. What the hell do you think you were doing, going after Sasuke by yourself and much less without a permit? Tsunade yelled at Naruto, who did not even flinch. He's my friend, Tsunade Bachan. I simply couldn't wait for an official retrieval team to be sent or the chakra trail would have been erased, Naruto argued. Listen, Jonin Uzumaki. I understand he's your friend. But that doesn't give you the right to leave this village without my permission. Tsunade snarled, pulling rank. Naruto's defiant eyes morphed into Sharingan as he got angry. Well, Hokage-sama, he spat with venom. Uchiha Sasuke has left to seek power from Orochimaru to kill Itachi. If I can't stop my teammate from leaving the village, I'm not worthy of the Jonin rank. He began unzipping his flak jacket. Now, there's no need for that. Came a voice from the window. It was Jiraiya. Look, from my perspective, I understand both of your viewpoints. Tsunade, cut him some slack. Don't you remember that time when Orochimaru defected? Tsunade grumbled as she recalled. She had also tried to leave the village to bring him back. Hiruzen had empathized with her as he had also lost a student. And Naruto, you're in the wrong too. You have to understand that although he was your friend, you can't simply leave the village on your own. You could have been marked as a Nukenin and ANBU squads could be sent to hunt you down, especially because of your Jinchuriki status. You have to understand your position in this matter. You're important to Konoha in many ways, not only as a Jinchuriki but also as a Jonin, and as a clan head, and key trading unit head as well as the other person guaranteeing our alliance with Kumo. If you went missing the whole village would be sent to find you. To me, most importantly, you're my godson and the Yondaime's only legacy, Jiraiya scolded. Naruto grumbled too but accepted his wrongdoings. He zipped back his flak jacket. All three in the room heard a chirping sound from the windows. They turned to it, realizing it was a crow. Itachi, all three said simultaneously. Tied to one of its legs was a scroll. Akatsuki hideout, earlier. What news do you bear, Zetsu? A man with spiky orange hair said. The other members of Akatsuki were assembled for a short briefing by their spy, Zetsu. However, they were not actually present but were connected via the rings they wore, which allowed them to be projected holographically in order to convene without actually being there and communicate over long distances. Zetsu looked like any normal person but had two halves, one black and the other white. It had green hair but the most distinctive trait was the Venus flytrap-looking extensions from its sides that covered its head and upper body. Zetsu was extremely skilled at espionage, being able to sink through the ground and eavesdrop. I bear news of Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto, Pain-sama, it spoke, addressing the leader of the Akatsuki. They battled it out today in the Valley of the End, said Zetsu, and the victor was Sasuke. If anyone looked, they would see Itachi and Narumi frowning as Naruto was clearly much stronger than Sasuke. Then Itachi smirked to himself, realizing what Naruto had done. So, Pain asked impatiently. Sasuke has defected from Konoha and joined Orochimaru, Zetsu reported, most probably to gain power to kill Itachi-san. Pain nodded. Indeed, that is troublesome. If Orochimaru got his hands on the Sharingan, he would be a fearsome enemy. And what of Uzumaki Naruto? He was struck in the chest by Sasuke's Chidori, Zetsu replied. He's not dead, is he? We need him for our goals. No, he's alive, Pain-sama, Zetsu confirmed. He wouldn't be down because of a single Chidori due to his healing factor, though he may require rest. Pain nodded again. I see. We shall begin the collection of the Biju in 3 years' time. Until then, you're all dismissed. One by one, the members of the Akatsuki flickered away as their rings were disconnected. Itachi turned to Narumi. Naruto-kun is fine, he assured his wife, who raised an eyebrow. How are you sure? He's stronger than Sasuke in many ways. Zetsu would have reported about his Rinnegan had he seen it. Obviously Naruto didn't use it during the battle. This led me to believe that he was tricking everyone with a highly advanced genjutsu employed by the Rinnegan, which also hid the fact that he possessed the dojutsu but at the same time allowing him to test Sasuke's abilities. Narumi sighed in relief, before smirking. Sounds like something you would do, Itachi-kun. Well, he is, after all, my student. Hokage's office, present. Jiraiya opened the scroll with his blood. Jiraiya-sama, I've been informed of Naruto's interesting fight with my Otuto. If you see him, do tell him that he did a good job with that illusion, though none of the other members apart from Narumi are aware of this fact and by extension, the Rinnegan. I digress. The Akatsuki's leader has informed us that the collection of the Biju shall begin in 3 years' time. In that span of time, I strongly suggest that you train Naruto-kun personally, along with his wife as they are both in danger. The other members of the Akatsuki will also be training in preparation, so do set out on your training as soon as possible. Regards, Uchiha Itachi, Jiraiya read aloud. Naruto's eyes widened. Itachi-sensei knew about my illusion. He asked. Jiraiya snorted. Genius as always, Itachi. Well, you heard the man. Best to start your trip as soon as possible, Tsunade said. Trip? Naruto asked. She nodded. You'll have to leave this village by tomorrow to maximize your training time. Also, I do not wish for the village to be destroyed by any S-rank jutsus. Yes ma'am, he answered enthusiastically. Jiraiya said. West Gate, 9 a.m. He nodded and walked off to prepare for his departure the next morning. Just before he left, Tsunade called, Wait. Naruto. I'm sorry. Naruto smiled. Don't worry about it Bachan, I'm not one to hold grudges. Unless you attacked one of my precious people, he said before disappearing in an orange flash. Tsunade shook her head at his flashy, no pun intended, exit. He really did scare her though, when he threatened to quit. She decided when it came to his precious people, she would make an exception. With Naruto, Yugito-chan were going on training trip with Jiraiya-sensei to prepare for the Akatsuki's Biju collection campaign. We're leaving tomorrow morning, he informed her. Yugito nodded at the sudden news, having gotten used to random revelations being thrown on her. She figured living with Naruto was always like that, so she'd just have to deal with it. Naruto first went to ANBU HQ to unsubscribe from the bingo book delivery service. When he returned, he began working on a long letter to all his friends in the Konoha 12, sans Sasuke, on ways they can improve, jutsu ideas etc. Hopefully while he was training everyone else wouldn't be too far back. He posted these letters into the post office but delivered directly to those whose clan compounds were nearby his. Finally, he packed his stuff and left it at the living room where Yugito did so as well. Taking off his shirt, he slid into bed with Yugito, who conveniently rested her head on his chest instead of using the conventional pillow. She placed a hand on his chest and felt his breathing heart. Naruto, in response, wrapped an arm around her body. It's okay dear. We'll be stronger when we return and the Akatsuki will never be able to touch us, Naruto assured her. You can read my mind, Naru-kun. Yugito asked, before saying, thanks anyways. She sighed. Tomorrow was going to be a long day for both of them. The next morning, Yugito yawned silently, noticing that her husband was still asleep. She disappeared from the bed and reintegrated in the kitchen noiselessly to prepare breakfast. Naruto, awake to find his bed empty, nearly panicked as he thought the Akatsuki had kidnapped her. Then he calmed down as he realized if they did, they would have captured him too. Hiraishin, he thought after packing his bed. Disappearing in a yellow flash, he reappeared behind his wife, placing a gentle kiss on her cheeks. Ohio, he greeted. Ohio, she replied while frying the egg. After brushing his teeth, he had breakfast and both left for the gates of Konoha. West Gates. The Konoha 12, Jiraiya and Tsunade were already there waiting for the two. They exchanged their farewells. Remember what I told you guys? Naruto said. Everyone else in the Konoha 12 nodded, having received his letter the previous day. Gaki, do me proud, Tsunade whispered to him, a tear sliding down her cheek. To her surprise, Naruto hugged her. I will, Bachan, I will. Itakimasu. Omake. Extras. Naruto was thinking why he lost the illusory battle to Sasuke. Obviously, he had forgotten something. Aha, he said, snapping his fingers as he recalled exactly what he missed out. I forgot to put on my plot armor before going to battle. That must have been it. His mother tsked. Minato, on the other hand, laughed. I forgot my armor. That's how I died in Kurama's attack. He said. Oh yeah. Naruto thought of something, before hugging his dad. Happy Father's Day. A trio walked towards Konoha's massive north gates. The oldest man had not changed much since then, his appearance remained exactly the same. The teenagers with him, though, were a different story. The male had grown taller since he left the village, as did his wife. His blonde hair had grown uncontrollably, making them look like a carbon copy of the Yondaime, who, let's admit, was hot. The most distinct feature was the bangs framing the side of his face. His build and physique had matured noticeably, he was clearly more muscular. He was wearing an orange shirt with black stripes running across it and black pants. Over it he donned a red cloak that looked similar to his father's in appearance. His wife, on the other hand, had grown to be a beautiful young woman. Her blonde hair was still gathered into a ponytail with taut bandages. Her body had grown as well, her figure more curvaceous than it was before. She was wearing a purple blouse with black pants and a red sash belt, similar to her outfit before the training trip. Over it was a black cloak with purple on the inside, picture the masked man's cloak, with a hood. Strapped to her waist were twin sabers. Both 16-year-olds were excited as they returned home for the first time. Jiraiya was long accustomed to leaving the village for long periods of time, so evidently this was routine by now. North Gates. Azumo, one of the gate guards, drew a kunai from his holster. What's wrong, Azumo? His partner asked. Katetsu, can you sense that? A huge amount of chakra is approaching the village, he informed, suppressing a shiver as he recalled the Kyuubi's attack 16 years ago. Yes, now that you mention it. The air is dense with that chakra. It's extremely powerful and potent. Almost like the Kyuubi, Katetsu replied, eyes widening. He unsealed a mace from his scroll. It was his signature weapon, the conch shell mace. He nodded at his partner, who went through the hand seals ram and tiger. West Gate. That chakra. So dense I can feel it here. Thought Neji. Byakugan. His dojutsu activated, and he scanned the surroundings for the source of this potent chakra that made it hard for him to breathe. The majority of the chakra was near the north gate. It's Naruto, said the Hyuga in disbelief as he zoomed in on the blue chakra system of his friend from far away. Naruto's chakra was a shade darker than it was originally. That was a sign of dense chakra which he only saw before in the Hokage and the Sannin. Jiraiya and Yugito were practically immune to the chakra put off by Naruto, so they didn't realize they were causing the Eternal Gate Guard's distress. Yo, Azumo and Katetsu, greeted Naruto cheerfully, still guards. Azumo broke out into a nervous laugh. Yes, was that chakra from you? What chakra? Naruto asked. The one that's choking Katetsu now, he deadpanned. Naruto saw the other guard panting, attempting to take breaths. Oops, my bad, he replied apologetically, suppressing his chakra presence as much as he could. Now that's just creepy, Azumo remarked as the chakra disappeared completely, erasing Naruto's presence. I know. Completed my Mugen Meisai in the first 2 weeks. Responded Naruto, so we're free to enter. Azumo nodded and opened the gates. Katetsu's face was pale as a sheet as he took in deep breaths of fresh air. Never felt that good to breathe, Katetsu panted out. Hokage's office. So you were the disturbance in the village I detected? Tsunade asked. Should have known it was you, Naruto. Suddenly she burst into tears, hugging the male blonde. Naruto smiled faintly. It's good to be home. Meanwhile Jiraiya was crying anime tears at not being able to be smothered by her huge ahem jugs. Naruto pulled back from the hug. Are we free to go around now? Tsunade nodded. Go have a reunion. Yugito followed him out of the room, while Jiraiya stayed back to talk with Tsunade. Gosh, he looks like Minato-kun, Tsunade commented. Jiraiya smirked. I trained him myself, he's upgraded his Rinnegan powers. What do you mean, upgraded? Tsunade asked curiously. For example, he can use his Asura path to forge weapons now, instead of just summoning armor or mechanical tools to his body. He can assemble weapons which are physically impossible to construct with Shirato, and they are permanent. He'll never run out of projectiles. Another example is that he is able to use his Tendo for pure flight purposes, Jiraiya explained. And what about Yugito? Tsunade asked. You didn't neglect her, did you? Nope. She learnt Jikuken ninjutsu apart from increasing her fire and lightning affinities. With this time-space ninjutsu which she calls Jikuken, Konso, space-time, Requip, she stores various armors, weapons and equipment in a pocket dimension and is able to summon it directly to her body so she does not have to put it on manually, similar to the Shirato. She is highly skilled in this area and can requip rapidly without much loss of chakra. Everything in the dimension has special qualities, they are all forged by Naruto's Shirato, Jiraiya reported. Sounds interesting indeed. I shall promote Yugito to Jonin if she passes a test, Tsunade replied. An A rank will do it just nicely, she said, however now they need to have a reunion. So that'll wait till tomorrow. Jiraiya nodded. With Naruto and Yugito, both returned home and unpacked, before dusting up the whole house which had accumulated thick layers of dust in the past 3 years. Damn. I think I should have placed a stasis seal on the estate before we left, Naruto complained. Yugito shrugged. Too late. Naruto sighed. This ain't stopping me from having a reunion. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The two went ahead to take a relaxing bath after their long journey while the clones cleaned up the house. After they finished, they got dressed and went for a reunion. Yugito didn't know much about Naruto's other friends apart from the females in the Konoha 12, so she decided this was a good chance to make friends. It's really you, Naruto. I knew it when I smelled your scent and that overpowering chakra, greeted Kiba. Your nose has really improved, to be able to smell me from that far away, Naruto praised. Of course. I worked on all those things you said in the letter, even managed to complete several jutsus of my own. Kiba boasted, but enough of that. I've informed the others about your return. Shoji has reserved a VIP lounge in one of the Akamichi restaurants just for this reunion. After glancing at Yugito, he said, your wife is invited too. I don't believe we've been introduced to each other properly, Yugito. She nodded. I'm Ni Yugito, Jinchuriki of the Nibi. I like ramen, milk, and playing the shamisen. Kiba grinned. Looks like Naruto got you addicted to the stuff, huh? I'm Inuzuka Kiba, future clan head of the Inuzukas. I like Akamaru, and beef steak jerky. Speaking of Akamaru, he's grown quite big. Naruto commented. Yeah, I know, it was like puberty for dogs. Then Naruto caught onto something. You said you were going to be the future clan head. What about Hana? My sister is not interested in politics, so my mother moved the position of next in line to me, Kiba explained. Naruto nodded. Let's not keep the others waiting. Let's go. They walked at a civilian pace to the high-class shinobi-only restaurant. This way Inuzuka-san, and Akamichi ushered Kiba and his group into the restaurant, walking up to the second floor. The second level was reserved for VIPs, so it was mostly empty. There were tables and chairs arranged neatly in any typical restaurant on the second floor as well, however they were directed to a screen door which led to the premium lounge. The balcony outside on the second floor was only accessible through the lounge, so it was obvious that this lounge was for only the most important people. Everyone was already seated inside. Hello, Naruto. Sakura greeted, as did the others. Hi, everyone. It's been a while, Naruto replied cheerfully. Everyone had matured greatly, all of them powerful shinobi and kunoichi. Even the weakest among them was a mid-chunin, and they all had to thank Naruto for his letter. A round teenager with brown hair who he recognized as Choji said, take a seat, don't stand on ceremony. Naruto nodded, and pulled out a chair first for his wife before seating himself next to her. The blonde took of his cloak while Yugito uttered, Jikuken, Konso. The cloak glowed with blue light before disappearing, leaving behind her normal clothing. Naruto pouted as he had to hang his cloak on the back of his chair. Handy trick you got there, Yugito-chan. She giggled at his childish expression. So, I believe I should introduce myself to all of you since most of you don't know me, Yugito started, gaining the attention of the people at the table. I'm Ni Yugito, the Nibi Jinchuriki if you guys didn't already know. I like ramen, milk, playing the shamisen, and of course Naruto. I dislike traitors, liars and people who judge others unfairly. I dream of becoming the world's most powerful kunoichi. I hope to make friends with you guys and get to know you all better, she introduced. Neji responded, there's no need for that, you're already in our circle of friends with your association to Naruto. However, indeed, you will have to gain our trust. That will come naturally over time. For now, let's eat. Now, to Naruto's return. Everyone raised their cups of sake together, and clinked them against one another. Cheers. The Konoha 13 now echoed in unison. They all drank up, then set their glasses down. A waitress entered the lounge, carrying menus which she passed to all of them. After a bit of time, she asked, what you guys be having? Akamichi-sama. Choji spoke on behalf of everyone. We'll have miso ramen with roasted pork fillet for Naruto and Yugito, syrup-coated anko dumplings and anmitsu for Sakura, beef steak jerky for Kiba, cinnamon rolls and zenzai for Hinata, wild grass salad for Shino, herring soba for Neji, sesame dumplings for Tenten, medium spicy curry rice for Lee, steamed mackerel and kelp for Shikamaru, pudding for Ino, any barbecue food for me and mochi for Haku. The waitress repeated the order, and once it was checked, she went off. So what have you guys achieved during the time I was gone? Naruto asked, intrigued. Haku, Ino and I learned Iryo ninjutsu from Tsunade Shisho. Personally, I learned her chakra-enhanced strength techniques, and have been amassing chakra for the Byakugo no In. Oh wait, you have no idea what I'm talking about, or you? Sakura asked sheepishly. As a matter of fact, I do, Naruto replied, forming a hand seal. Byakugo no In, he called. A purple diamond appeared on his head. Sakura gasped. How did you get that? That, I'm afraid, is classified, Naruto responded, before the mark disappeared. I'm about a week away from completing the seal, Sakura stated. A week away, Naruto repeated. I took a night. Sakura's eyes widened. The seal takes 3 years to charge. How much chakra do you have? Naruto shrugged, and stopped suppressing his chakra. Immediately, everyone else in the lounge except Yugito began choking, finding it difficult to breathe as the air around them became extremely dense with chakra. 3 seconds later, he suppressed it again and everyone gave a sigh of relief. Sakura's sweat dropped. Well, that answered my question. Hinata called. Byakugan. She observed his dark blue chakra reserves, and although she saw the red tint behind it, she knew it was from the Kyuubi as Tsunade had revealed to the others in the Konoha 13. Not counting the Kyuubi, Naruto-kun's reserves are above high Kage level, unprecedented. I've never seen so much chakra in one place at any given time, Hinata noted. The others looked at him with a new level of respect. His chakra control must have taken forever to hone. As she deactivated her Byakugan, Kiba began to speak. My speed, reflexes and taijutsu prowess has increased. I can now do the Jujin Kanbi Henge, Sotaro, man-beast combination transformation, double-headed wolf, and Jujin Kongo Henge, Santoro, man-beast mixture transformation, three-headed wolf, just as you mentioned in the letter. From there I developed the Garoga, Fang Wolf Fang, for the two-headed wolf and the Uiga Gatenga, tail-chasing rotating Fang, for the three-headed wolf, which are both variants of the original Inazuka technique Gatsuga, Fang passing Fang. Also I developed the Gatenga, Fang rotating Fang, and Suga passing Fang, as you wrote in the letter, to utilize turning speed to increase cutting power as well as to create a jutsu for the scenario that Akamaru were to be separated from me, Kiba said. Shino explained next. I utilized shape transformation to create more techniques with my Kikaichu, parasitic destruction insects, and also went ahead to experiment with even more insect species which admittedly are dangerous to wield. I now have 4 other species. The Kidaichu parasitic giant insects, Baikochu minute scent insects, Rinkaichu phosphorus destruction insects, and Shokaichu neutralizing destruction insects. The Baikochu and Shokaichu are used for tracking enemies based on scent and chakra signature respectively, while the Rinkaichu kill the enemy by feeding on their cells. It is extremely poisonous. I possess the antibodies for them. The hardest species to breed was the Kidaichu. They expand to enormous proportions when fed with the wrong amount of chakra, so they are extremely effective in dealing with the enemy. However, that also makes it dangerous for me to hold them, as I could get killed if I feed them too much or little chakra. My ultimate breeding technique is to mix all of these species together and let natural selection and evolution to do the work for me. Sounds interesting. Naruto commented honestly. while the others suddenly felt like vomiting. Luckily they did not have their food yet. Anyo. I've improved on my Juken skills. Hinata joined the discussion, and I utilized my chakra control to create several taijutsu after finally mastering the Hakusho Kaden, 8 trigrams palms rotation, and Hake Kusho, 8 trigrams air palm. I created the Shogu Hake Rokujuyan Sho, 8 trigrams 64 palms guard, and the Jupo, Soshikan gentle step, twin lion fists using pure shape transformation and chakra control. Then I learnt the Shozen Jutsu from Sakura and I created the Mizuhari, water needle, modeling it after Haku's 1000 flying water needles of death. Neji picked up the conversation from where it left off. Like Hinata-sama, I increased my mastery of the Juken. I improved the Hake Kusho and Kaden to create a lot more variants. I also combined both moves to create the Hake Hako Kusho, 8 trigrams breaching sky palm. Oh, and I'm now Jonin. That's about it. Tenten was up next. I improved my Fuinjutsu skills to store even more weapons, and I now know how to wield all of them. The bow, staff, bow and arrow, Kusari Fubo, chain wind staff club, crossbow, Bakusadama, exploding sphere, flail, Fuma shuriken, injection shots, Jadanda, Johio, rope dart, sickle, Kinzoku no Ningyo, metal doll, Kusari, chain, Kusarigama, chain sickle, Nunchaku, Senbon, spear, sword, Tonto, 3-section staff, Tonfa, whip and wire strings are the weapons I use. I hope to be able to find the lost Rakuto Senin no Hogu, treasured tools of the Sage of Six Paths. Good luck with that, Tenten. What about you, Lee? Naruto asked. My taijutsu has improved tremendously as my youth bloomed. I can now open 6 of the Hachimen. Unfortunately, Gai-sensei forbade me from opening the 7th gate, the Gate of Shock. For now, I have mastered the primary and hidden lotus, and I'm currently working on a Sakujaku, Lee replied, smiling all the time. Shikamaru sighed. My turn, I guess. Well, I have many justice down after you gave the idea of shape transformation. Combining it with my natural ability of manipulating Inten, yin style, I created a ton of jutsus. Under Asuma Sensei I learned to use chakra trench knives, which allow me to use them not only as a secondary weapon but they also assist me with my shadow jutsus. The basis for all my techniques is the Kage Nui no Jutsu, shadow stitching jutsu, which is the most important technique I've learnt. It grants me the power to materialize my shadows to attack and bind the enemy, instead of just immobilizing and controlling him. From here I can use the shape transformation to create more techniques. The speed of this technique is much faster than the Kajimane no Jutsu, thus it is much more powerful and I can restrain my opponents quickly if necessary without paralyzing them. Besides, if I so choose, the technique can be reverted to the Kajimane rapidly as well. The first of the created jutsus is the Kage Kubashibari no Jutsu, shadow neck binding jutsu, which creates a shadow hand to strangle the opponent after I bind them with my Kajimane. The second is the Kagazukami no Jutsu, shadow grab jutsu, which allows me to bind anybody without paralyzing him. This allows them to keep their range of motion while being connected to me. It can be compared to a rope or tether. I use it with Choji for his Nikuden yo-yo, human bullet yo-yo. The third is the Kageos no Jutsu, shadow gathering jutsu. This is a ninjutsu using materialized shadows, but compared to the Kage Nui from the same line, this technique places emphasis on the minute control of the shadow's movements. It is accurate enough to even make the tentacles go through tiny holes. Basically, this technique takes my own shadow and transforms and stretches it into countless thin tentacles, which are then used to grab objects and pull them in. Also, I can skillfully make use of the tentacle-shaped shadow tendrils by using them to lift up and throw weapons like kunai and such. Sounds extremely versatile to me, Naruto remarked. Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet. I also have the Kuro Higanbana, Black Spider Lily, which I utilize to pull multiple enemies into the range of Ino's mind jutsus after binding them with Kage Nui. Then I have the Kagegatana no Jutsu, Shadow Sword Jutsu, Kagegawari no Jutsu, Shadow Replacement Jutsu, Kage Fuin no Jutsu, Shadow Sealing Jutsu, and Kage no Yoroi, Shadow Armor. I could go on all day, but you guys get the point. The other's eyes widened. He had so many jutsus, just from that Kage Nui. Suddenly, the screen door slid open to reveal the waitress who walked in with 13 glasses of ice water and a jug with the same water. She set it on the table before saying, the food will arrive in 15 minutes as we require time to acquire some of the ingredients and cook them. Then she walked out. The ingredients? Naruto asked. Choji nodded. That's why you can pretty much order any food here. We import food from all around the world and summon it here to be prepared. Oh yeah, now it's my turn. I can now do that technique which you suggested, the Baika no Jutsu, multi-size jutsu, except in reverse. Instead of the common application of expanding, I decrease in size instead since I can actually alter my size at will. My volume decreases but my mass remains the same, thereby increasing my density. With denser limbs, I have the power to snap my opponent's bones with a single punch. Shikamaru smirked in approval. That is damn smart of you, Naruto. The blonde shrugged. Simple physics, actually. For a brief moment he remembered his sister, the one who had drilled all that knowledge into him. Choji continued, apart from that I've learned more jutsus, and applied them in both sizes. When I'm bigger I have a larger impact, but when I'm smaller I have a larger pressure. So I just have to choose based on the situation. Thanks to Naruto I have a versatile ninjutsu arsenal now. You're welcome, he replied politely. I'm next. So basically I learned some Iryo ninjutsu, but my main focus was on my clan's ninjutsu. I can control my opponents pretty quickly now and I have a larger range with my Shintenshin no Jutsu, mind transfer jutsu. I can use the Shintenbunshin no Jutsu, mind transfer clone jutsu, which clones my consciousness in order to control more than one body at a time, and I learned my dad's Shinranshin no Jutsu, mind body disturbance jutsu, which allows me to control my enemies temporally without entering them, so I can make the enemies turn on each other. However, my pride is this jutsu which I call the Shinten Kugutsu Juin no Jutsu, mind transfer puppet curse jutsu, which I really have to thank Naruto for. I switch my mind with a puppet and use it to attack the enemy. When the puppet comes in contact with the enemy it places a curse on them which causes both our consciousness to switch such that the enemy ends up trapped in the doll and I end up in control of his body. The beauty of this is that I don't have to worry about his will overpowering mine as it is sealed within the puppet. Oh man, that's sick. How did you test that jutsu? Oh wait, actually I don't wanna know, Kiba remarked. Well Haku, you're up. I learned Iryo ninjutsu from Tsunade Shisho and mastered the art of Senbon throwing. I can throw them with enough force to kill, and trust me, Senbon weren't made for killing. Everyone in the room shivered at the thought of the amount of skill she must have had to do it. My Hyoten on the other hand, has improved a lot since I started using shape transformation, though it's quite difficult as it's not as malleable as Shikamaru-kun's shadows. However, what it does have, is impressive structural stability and strength, so most of the jutsus I created are defensive in nature. The few that are offensive, however, I created by first learning Suiten ninjutsu and then converting what I can into ice with Hyoten. Futon jutsu are harder to convert as they are even more malleable than Suiten, being in gaseous state. Suiten was much more easier as it had definite volume. I have, however, successfully converted the Datapa into what I call Hyoten, Hayatoiki ice style. Icy breath, which allows me to freeze and slow down whatever is flying towards my face in midair, or I can use it cover an area with ice and snow. That I'm a Jonin now. That's it. Naruto nodded. All of you have improved greatly. I can tell we will be a strong generation of shinobi, one the world has never seen. Everyone smiled in agreement. Before they could even ask about Yugito and Naruto's improvements, the waitress started serving the food. They ate the food in silence. After finishing, they were served more of whatever food they pleased. Naruto just then had an idea. Choji, why not fit all the tables with a summoning circle to summon food directly to the table without having to have waiters and waitresses? That's a good idea, Choji replied within bites, as the people working in this restaurant are Akamichi shinobi. I suppose we could lighten their duties if we did this, however we do not have the fuinjutsu necessary to do so. I'll have that fixed today, after this. Take this as payment for the meal. What do you say? Sure. After they finished the meal, everyone left except Naruto and Yugito, who stayed back to implant the devices on their tables. Shirato. Naruto muttered. Kaguya Asura Path. Forge. Later, Yugito and Naruto left the restaurant, and went to visit Makoto and Karen before going back home. Haven't been in an onsen for a while, Naruto remarked, and Yugito nodded in agreement. So they turned on their tap in their onsen room and went in, soaking in the hot spring to unwind from the past 3 years of training. Ironically, the first thing they did after the hot spring session was to train. Kanso, Yugito intoned just as Naruto called, Kaden, Goka Meshitsu, fire style, majestic demolisher flame. A focused blast of fire flew across the floor towards the cat princess, whose body glowed blue as armor appeared over her blouse. The fire raged harmlessly against the armor, which was immune to all Kaden jutsus below S rank. She spun around rapidly while drawing one of her sabers, which clashed with the steel edge of the Raijin no Ken. Knocking it away, she slashed at Naruto's chest. His form wavered as her sword passed right through him, the momentum carrying her left hand to the right of his body. Capitalizing on this, her husband materialized and grabbed her wrist, swinging her into the sky. Yugito sheathed her sword midair, opting to flash through hand seals instead. Raiden. Raijinchu, lightning style, thunder god pillar. She yelled. A beam of yellow lightning shot from her mouth and towards Naruto at the speed of light. In a brilliant flash of orange, he disappeared, leaving the ground where he was vaporized. He appeared behind her in midair, using his weight to pin her down when both landed. When did he? Yugito thought before recalling the moment when he grabbed her wrist. He placed a kunai at her throat. I win. She smirked, dispelling in a burst of smoke. Kage Bunshin. Naruto thought just as she appeared from behind him, a kunai already making its way towards his back. An invisible force repelled both the kunai and its owner, throwing both back from Naruto while disarming her due to the impact. Naruto's eyes were both glowing purple, 6 tomo lining the inner 2 rings of his divine dojutsu. Shinra Tensai. Yugito muttered, wiping the dirt off her mouth as she observed the giant crater in a 20-meter radius from him. I only have 5 seconds before your jutsu recharges, she spoke aloud, luckily I'm not the real me. The Yugito dispersed into a lightning which scattered into the air. Naruto's eyes widened at the double trickery. The real Yugito shot out from the ground underneath him, spinning out of the floor like a torpedo while she drew her saber to slash the Jonin. Black chakra expelled from Naruto's pores, manifesting around him protectively in the form of an ethereal ribcage. Yugito's saber bounced off the chakra aura, making it fly out of her hand and slide across the grass due to the force she put into the strike. Naruto backhanded her, but before that could happen she backflipped away. Yugito pouted. That's unfair, Whiskers-kun. In response, his Susanoo gained arms and a skull with piercing yellow eyes. The air around Yugito bubbled a thick red, before it consumed her entire body and morphed into a giant demon cat matching the size of the Susanoo. Blue and red orbs began merging at a high pace to form a purple ball in front of the Nibi's mouth, while gray chakra gathered to create comma-shaped beads linked by a chakra chain in the Susanoo's right hand. Naruto's Susanoo its hand back just as Matabi reared back on her back legs. Biju. Yasaka no. Ding dong. The bell sounded. The tailed beast bomb shattered while the beads diffused. What is it? Naruto called. It's me, Sakura, the visitor replied. Naruto teleported to the front door. Yes, I'm here on behalf of Tsunade Shisho, Sakura informed Naruto. She wants both of you to meet her at 9 tonight, specifically after your dinner. The blonde shrugged. Sure. Naruto told Yugito of Tsunade's order after re-entering the barrier, to which she merely nodded her head. Dama. Magatama. A huge explosion ensued. Ichiraku ramen stand. 8:50 p.m. Naruto slurped up the rest of the broth in his bowl, as did Yugito. Thanks, Tsuki-san, both chorused at once. The old man nodded. Bye, Naruto-kun. Come again, Ayame said. Naruto replied, I will. He swiped his hand, causing a wind to pick up his cloak and it fluttered, covering the couple momentarily. They disappeared into particles of orange light. Hokage's office. Yugito knocked on the door. Enter, came Tsunade's voice. You wanted to see us, Tsunade-sama? Yugito asked politely as she entered the room with her husband. The Hokage nodded. Indeed. Tomorrow morning you shall embark on an A-rank mission to retrieve the lost diamonds of Madame Shijimi. Naruto snorted. First the cat, now her diamonds. My guess is they've been stolen by a shinobi hired by a civilian. Tsunade responded. My thoughts exactly. Since we're dealing with important royal jewelry, plus the fact that it was most likely stolen by a skilled shinobi, this mission is classified as an A- rank. Why A rank though? How are you sure that the thief is highly skilled? Yugito questioned. You have a suspect in mind, Naruto concluded. Indeed. The suspect is none other than the Black Death of the Earth, Tsuchi no Kuroshi. He is highly suspected to have been hired by local criminal Hinoko Kagetsu, as Jiraiya's spy network suggests. Your task is to head to the capital and confirm if Kagetsu is in possession of the diamonds. If he is, then confirm if Kagetsu had hired the Black Death. Tsuchi no Kuroshi poses a threat to homeland security. You are to assassinate both Kagetsu and Kuroshi once you have ascertained that Kuroshi had criminal intent in entering Hai no Kuni, Tsunade ordered. Hi, Hokage-sama. Naruto, stay back. I want a word with you. Yugito, you are dismissed. The blonde Chunin bowed her head before a flaming tornado engulfed her and she disappeared. Yes? Naruto asked. Tsunade continued, as the Jonin of the mission, you are in charge. You are not to inform her, but this is a promotional mission. I need you to observe her skills throughout the mission and write up an extensive report for me to judge. I trust that despite her being your wife, you will remain impartial in your judgment and be truthful in your report, not sugarcoating anything. So you're using this mission to promote her? Naruto asked. Tsunade nodded. If she shows enough skill and has the attitude of a Jonin throughout the idiom mission, she will be duly awarded the rank. Therefore, I want you to step aside and let her complete the mission mostly by herself. Do not interfere except in a life and death situation. Naruto pondered on it for a while, then sighed. All right then. Tsunade gave her final order. You are to leave by tomorrow morning. Hi. The next morning, Yugito and Naruto stood at the north gate, both donning their favorite cloaks. In silent agreement, both shinobi took off in the direction of the capital, where their enemy would be lurking. Husband and wife arrived at the capital of the Land of Fire. It was a vibrant land, with almost no trace of shinobi. The ones that were present were guarding the fire daimyo. Daimyo's palace. Naruto knelt down before the royal leader of Hai no Kuni. Daimyo-sama, my wife and I are here for the mission to retrieve Madame Shijimi's diamonds. Ah, I've heard much about you, Naruto-kun, the old man spoke. I trust that you'll be skilled enough to complete the mission. The blonde bowed his head. Of course. Though my wife will be taking charge. The daimyo raised an eyebrow. Ah, right. Your wife. Konoha no Nekokogo, Cat Empress of the Leaf. Your reputation precedes you, young lady, he said, nodding at Yugito. Thank you, Daimyo-sama. Well, important information, I suppose. The thief was hired by Hinoko Kagetsu, a powerful criminal with many connections. My Shugonin Junichi suspect that the thief himself was none other than the Black Death of the Earth. However, that needs to be confirmed as we cannot attack and capture the Nukenin without evidence, the daimyo explained. Naruto nodded. Nothing we have not heard. We shall set off at once. The fire daimyo waved a hand in dismissal and both ninjas disappeared. So where exactly will we find Kagetsu? Naruto asked, hoping to prompt Yugito to respond and perhaps ease her promotion a little bit. What do powerful criminals usually own? Territory. Aha, a casino. That's where we'll find him, Yugito replied, snapping her fingers. Good thinking. But what casino exactly? Asked Naruto. If he's as powerful as they say, he probably owns every casino, Whiskers-kun, Yugito deadpanned. Right. Her husband's sweat dropped. Come on, she said, tugging him by his arm towards the nearest casino available. Konso, she said, and her cloak and clothes disappeared, replaced by a black dress. Meanwhile, Naruto had to use the conventional method to dress up. He wore an orange shirt with a white blazer over it, and covered it with a black coat, which concealed his weapons. Blue Moon Casino. Welcome. The doorman greeted the couple. Naruto and Yugito entered the lavish hall, filled with a lot of noise as people shuffled tiles, cards and chips. Naruto went to the counter and placed 100 billion ryo on the table, causing the clerk's eyes to widen. He then accepted the money and produced 2 large suitcases, opening them slightly to reveal many chips within before closing them and handing them over. Naruto took both suitcases and went over to a table which was currently having a game of poker. Yugito sat down and began playing with the other people. Soon, it was between her and another guy on the table. The players betted on the guy as they did not support the noob, who just joined the table but beat all of them. Only Naruto betted on his wife. Straight flush. her opponent declared smugly, revealing a jack, 10, 9, 8 and 7 of spades. Yugito dramatically slid out her last card. A wide smile came over her face, and that was when he knew he was doomed. Royal flush. Yugito swept all the other players' chips to her side as they watched in disbelief. Keep this up and you'll get Keigetsu's attention, Naruto whispered to her as they headed to another table. He was right, as after winning 17 games, one of the casino staff approached them. Hinoko-sama wishes to speak to you. This way, please, the lady said, ushering them up a flight of staircases. She slid open the screen door and gestured inside. Once the two stepped in, she closed the door. In the room, there was Keigetsu himself and two of his henchmen whose identities were hidden by their hoods. He was smoking from a pipe at a table, on which there were cards. Uzumaki-san, I heard from my staff downstairs that you were very good at these casino games. May I have a game with you, Uzumaki Yugito? Keigetsu asked. She nodded and sat down at the opposite end of the table. Hinoko waved a hand to one of his henchmen, and ordered, get us both cups of Sprite. Then he told the other one to deal the cards. Naruto's eyes morphed discreetly into Rinnegan with 6 tomo. Rinbo. Hengoku, he intoned softly. Shadows spread out in the world of Limbo to begin a search for the diamonds. When they returned without anything, he was dumbfounded. Where exactly could he have hidden the diamonds? Keigetsu's left-hand man placed the glasses of cold drinks down on either side of the table. Yugito watched the criminal boss intently, observing around for any diamonds. It was already her turn, so she turned her attention back to the game. After her turn, her eyes widened in realization. Keigetsu, could I drink from your cup? Why, I'd like to see how Sprite tastes like with diamonds, she replied. Immediately, Naruto pulled her back from the chair, just in time to avoid a giant spike sprouting from the chair's base. How intuitive of you, Uzumaki-san. I'm afraid that means I'll have to end you, the boss threatened. I've been itching to do so anyways, after you made my casino lose so much money. His right-hand man lifted his hood, revealing himself to be Tsuchi no Kuroshi. Doden. Shidokaku, Earth Style. Mobile Core. The Black Death yelled as the crime boss and his left-hand man ran away from the room through a secret exit. The floor below them shook and lowered itself to the same level as the first floor, causing the whole second floor to collapse due to lack of structural stability. The customers began fleeing in panic. Doden. Ganshuso. Kuroshi cried, slamming his hands together. Spikes of earth shot out from the floor and towards them. Yugito stepped before her husband, declaring, Jikuken. Kanso. The black dress was replaced by yellow armor, which disintegrated the spears with lightning when they came in contact with it. The Black Death grumbled in annoyance. Doden. Doryu Taiga, Earth Style. Great Mud River. The casino floor turned into a rapidly flowing river of mud. Naruto stuck his hand out just as it reached him. Gakido. Fujutsu Kyuan. A sphere of chakra enveloped him as he absorbed the Doden Jutsu and replenished his own chakra reserves, much to Kuroshi's shock. My turn. Kaden. Goka Meshitsu. Raiden. Raijenshu. Yugito yelled, sending a stream of yellow lightning after it. The powerful blast of fire was augmented by the extremely focused beam of lightning as it collided with the Black Death. Where he once was, there was nothing left, not even a pile of ash. Bunshin. Yugito cried out in alarm as mud flew out from the floor towards them at high speed, morphing into the Nukenin who had an earthen sword in hand. Shinra. Naruto was cut short as the sword plunged into his stomach and exited through the other side of his body. Kuroshi smirked in victory. That is, until Naruto melted into the exact same mud he was moments ago. He turned around just in time to avoid a stab from Naruto's Raijin no Ken by clashing it with his own kunai. Unfortunately for the Black Death, the kunai was crafted rapidly using Doden chakra, while Naruto's sword blade was made from pure Raiden chakra. The elemental advantage allowed his blade to cut right through the kunai and force Kuroshi back. Tisk. You're good, the Black Death acknowledged. You're not too shabby either. Your control with Doden Jutsu is good, you are able to form weapons out of earth quickly, Naruto analyzed. Yugito spoke. I think you're forgetting about me. She lunged at him from behind, unsheathing her twin sabers to slash at the Nukenin. The man jumped up without even looking back, and flipped over her. So you're a sensor nin huh? Yugito observed. You're smart, the man replied. Then he charged at her. Both clashed together in hand-to-hand combat, with Yugito having the upper hand as she was much more nimble and flexible. Apart from that, Kuroshi's expertise lied in ninjutsu. The cat empress spun around, backhanding him with a last-minute flick of her wrist as she smacked him in the face. The Nukenin tumbled across the casino floor, rolling to a stop at the other end. As he stood up, he coughed up blood. Strong 2. Nekokogo. Doden. Shokajigen no Jutsu, Earth Style. Super weighted boulder jutsu. Kuroshi called, launching a giant boulder at the two. A skeletal black hand punched the boulder, shattering it. What the hell is that? Kuroshi murmured. Black chakra manifested into a giant warrior from the torso up. Tsukumo. Naruto shouted. Susanoo's ribcage opened, launching a barrage of gray needles. Doden. Doryuheki. The Black Death countered. A wall of earth rose from the floor, cushioning the impact of the chakra needles. Kamui. Naruto activated the dojutsu, creating a vortex-like distortion which sucked in Kuroshi's wall. It disappeared, and so did the Black Death himself. Suddenly, he reappeared behind the couple, delivering a roundhouse kick. It was useless, however, as it was deflected by Naruto's Susanoo. The ethereal warrior slammed its right hand into the ground, smashing it and throwing the Nukenin back. As he flew in midair, Yugito delivered a fireball at him. Iwa no Yoroi, rock armor. The Black Death called as he backflipped and landed perfectly on the floor while the fireball engulfed him harmlessly. Let's end this, Naruto said to Yugito, who nodded in agreement. Naruto cancelled his Susanoo and threw a barrage of kunais at Kuroshi, who knocked them away. However, they were attached to flashbangs with bright light and loud sound which blinded him and disrupted his balance. Immediately, Naruto placed a hand on Yugito's back. She disappeared in an orange flash and reappeared before the disoriented Nukenin, drawing a saber and slashing him in the chest with a backhand grip. Next she tossed the sword into the air, flipping it such that it landed in her hand in a forehand grip. However, just before it landed she cried, "Konso." Blue light shimmered over the saber, replacing it with a rapier. With a fluid thrust, it penetrated through the already damaged armor and pierced through his body. He groaned as he vomited blood. Naruto flashed up to him, placing a hand over his forehead. Ninjendo. Hyukin no Jutsu, he intoned. A bluish glow enveloped the Nukenin as his soul became visible and tangible to Naruto's hands. Grabbing its head, he tugged the soul free from its body with little resistance as the man was weak in his current state. All the Nukenin's memories flowed into his head. Well, Majoko Torin, you're guilty as charged for entering the land of fire with criminal intention. I would have executed you in typical shinobi fashion, however it seems that has already been done. Sayonara. Naruto spoke to the dead man. The corpse was decapitated for its bounty. Yugito swapped her saber back and sheathed it while Naruto sealed the head away into a storage seal. Now we have to find Kagetsu, Yugito informed her husband. He nodded. Kagura no Shingen. Being a civilian, his chakra signature is weak but is still unique. Naruto reported. He's heading towards a warehouse nearer to the outskirts of the capital. Moving pretty fast, too. It appears that he's on horseback with his left-hand man behind him, on another horse. Yugito accepted the information. We'll have to intercept him. He probably left with the diamonds as well. Let's cut across the forest and ambush him on the path, she suggested, referring to a map she had. Let's go, Naruto ordered before dashing out of the half-destroyed casino with Yugito close behind. The couple pulled on their hoods to better conceal themselves as well as to keep their hair out of the way while running to reduce air resistance. They ascended the nearest building, free running across the rooftops and gradually came to the forests surrounding the capital. By the way, how did you know the diamonds were in the drink? Naruto asked. Yugito replied, simple science. Diamonds don't float in water, ice cubes do. I noticed that, and that was how I found out. She's definitely getting that promotion, thought Naruto as he jumped onto another treetop. He's close, the censor Nin warned his wife as they approached a deserted path, lined with trees on both sides. Both climbed up a tree adjacent to the path and pressed their bodies to a branch overhanging the path. Naruto readied a rope, tying a noose. The thundering sound of horses galloping became louder, and soon they were visible, roughly 10 meters away. The shinobi flashed through field signals, gaining a nod from Yugito. He stuck out 3 fingers, then 2, then 1. Keigetsu rode by unharmed just as Naruto threw down his noose with supernatural accuracy, catching the henchman, who was riding behind, by the neck. The blonde jumped down from the branch, creating a pulley system which lowered him to the floor while pulling the poor guy off his horse and hanging him by the branch in the process. As the man was being hung, Naruto used the momentum from the rope to swing himself up and mount the horse. The henchman gave a sharp cry just before dying, alerting Hinoko to their presence. The kingpin was frightened immensely by the skillful and efficient way his lackey had been assassinated. Anxiously, he whipped his horse and it brought him away. Ikuzo, Yugito, Naruto cried, whipping his own horse. It neighed as its second rider, Yugito, landed on its back. The horse stood on its hind feet before galloping after the crime boss. Soon, the forest disappeared and they came to a huge, blank land with only one thing on it, an abandoned warehouse. Keigetsu dismounted his horse and ran through the warehouse's doors. Naruto and Yugito jumped off the horse 30 seconds later, in hot pursuit. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki entered the desolate room. A single chair was sitting in the middle of the room, the rest of the warehouse was lit up by lamps at the back. About 70 men emerged from the back of the warehouse, where ladders led to a platform which made up the second floor. Naruto sat on the chair in reverse, propping his hands on the top of the chair back. He looked unamused. Go on. Toast your noble boss. Naruto incited. Or you can do better. Leave him, this will be your only chance. The crooks tensed, but soon their faces became determined as they brandished their weapons. He's the source of our income. We'll never leave Hinoko-sama. A loyal henchman cried. Well then, Naruto started, pulling off his black hood to reveal a shock of blonde hair and fearsome, crimson eyes with spinning commas. You asked for it. Sasuke was currently in Kusagaku, Hidden Grass Village, after Orochimaru had made him switch between so many bases just in case an enemy could track them. Every time they made a switch, Orochimaru abandoned the base there while bringing all his articles and documents over to the new base. Thus, they were never in one place for too long. From what Sasuke knew of the Uchiha hideout, it was located in the Land of Fire, near the fire grass border, so he was in luck. He should make it there in about 2 to 3 hours. Uchiha hideout, 8:30 p.m. Sasuke observed the vast forestry surrounding the dilapidated building. It was built into a terraced mountain with trees on each level. On either side of the mountain, 2 towers were built and were connected directly to it. An ominous sound echoed as he stepped in through the entrance, the caw of a crow. Said bird eyed him with its beady black eyes, before flying away. The Uchiha tried to ignore it as he took in the sight of the base. It was a huge, plain meeting hall with nothing but a throne which sat on an elevated platform. Behind the throne was a yellow poster with 8 red swirls surrounding the kanji for fox. A murder of crows flew into the hall and towards the throne, gathering and mixing to form the shape of his elder brother. If he had to guess, that crow from earlier was a summon which reverse summoned Itachi. As expected of his brother, Itachi Nissen, Sasuke greeted, his heart beating rapidly. This was the man he had wanted to kill all his life. Sasuke. You've come, Itachi replied. The younger Uchiha gritted his teeth. He was getting nervous. Why was he nervous? He should be getting his sword out and killing his brother. But now that he was here, he knew. He knew why. Itachi, I want to ask you something. Go ahead. Was it true? Did you really massacre the clan to test your skills? Or were you ordered to kill the clan because you had no choice? Sasuke asked. Itachi's next words were important. It would decide if Sasuke would kill him. The older Uchiha faltered, before choosing his next words carefully. I did it. Because I was forced to. Sasuke disappeared in a blur, appearing right in front of Itachi with his arms outstretched. To his utmost surprise, his younger brother hugged him. I knew it. Tsunade was right, Sasuke muttered, tears falling from his eyes as the mystery of his life was finally solved. Itachi was shocked, even if his face didn't show it. Tsunade-sama did what? Sasuke withdrew from the hug. The Hokage explained it all to me. After I was promoted to Chunin, Tsunade told me the truth. All of it, right after Naruto's wedding. Well, that saves the explanation, Itachi thought. You were Misunderstood. Hated. Hated by the village you loved, Sasuke said out between tears. Despite all you did for them, they shunned you. How dare those despicable villagers? His tears stopped. Tsunade told me that it was all because of Shimura Danzo's manipulation that you had to kill off the clan. Shisui Nissan's death was blamed on you, even though he committed suicide. They used you as a scapegoat, and now, they shall pay the price. I'll kill Danzo, he cried. Itachi sighed. Killing is good and all, but you have to think. What good would that do to Konoha if one of the honorable counselors was assassinated? There's still Homura and Kaharu, and they cannot manipulate anyone without Danzo, Sasuke countered. Good point, Itachi said. Sasuke scowled. Between you and me, I suspect he raided the clan compound after the massacre and stole a bunch of Sharingan. Itachi's eyes widened. That was an unforgivable desecration. After what had happened, the clan should be allowed to rest in peace. Yet this outsider came in and stole their prized possessions. What's more, they were dangerous in the hands of Danzo, who had already stolen Shisui's Mangekyo as far as he knew. That's it. I can't go back with you because I'm the mole in Akatsuki, but you have my blessings to assassinate Danzo, Itachi spoke. With pleasure, Sasuke replied. On the subject of Mangekyo, have you heard of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan? Itachi asked. Now was a good time, if any. Sasuke shook his head. The Mangekyo is a power that seals itself gradually with use. Eventually, the user will go blind. The younger Uchiha gasped. He never knew of such consequences. His vision was quite blurry recently, but he passed it off as lack of sleep that would go away after a while. Obviously, he did not foresee such a huge handicap of using the Mangekyo. Fortunately, there is a way to counter that. It is called the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Sounds pretty self-explanatory, doesn't it? Itachi asked. Sasuke nodded. I presume it involves some transplanting. Itachi nodded, impressed with his intelligence. After all, there was no way to train it, as the more the Mangekyo was used, the more it would deteriorate, the very thing they were trying to avoid in the first place. Therefore, the next logical possibility was transplanting. The original owner transplants the Mangekyo of a relative into his own eyes, and when the eyes find their new host, their powers will be unsealed forever, Itachi explained. So, one of us has to go without eyes? Sasuke asked. Itachi facepalmed, taking back his earlier impression. We could both swap eyes, and that would result in both of us wielding the EMS. Naruto and Narumi have done it before, it was a success. In fact, that was what they were doing before you arrived at the hotel that time, trying to kill us. Sasuke nodded. He would go ahead with the procedure. Itachi continued. Each pattern of the Mangekyo indicates different characteristics the owner would have. Gaining the Ms will allow one to combine the abilities of both users. Sasuke channeled chakra to his eyes, making them transform into the Mangekyo Sharingan. What does mine say? Itachi noted. Black on red patterns are extremely rare. They indicate flexibility, and an aptitude for kenjutsu. Ellipses represent speed. The more you have, the better. The fact that they are arranged in an atom model shows a high affinity for fire. Itachi paused to activate his own Mangekyo. Mine has curves. They symbolize an aptitude for genjutsu. The curves are actually one never-ending line, so they mean that I have high chakra levels. The tri-bladed shuriken pattern represents skills in shurikenjutsu. My wife's Mangekyo consisted of a snowflake, symbolizing a high affinity for water. The lines were straight and sharp, another rarity as well within the Uchiha clan, which symbolized efficiency of motion and an aptitude for taijutsu. Naruto's original was a six-pointed star and a ring of stylized flower petals surrounding them. It is practically unheard of to have two separate patterns in one Mangekyo, apparently that allowed him to use more than the standard number of abilities. The star's points were straight and sharp, which again represents efficiency and skills in taijutsu. The flower petals, on the other hand, were actually made up of ellipses on closer inspection. He had 8 ellipses, that makes him practically a god in speed. The flower petals were connected in a ring, so the unbroken line means that he has high chakra levels. Sasuke nodded in acceptance. That fitted the description of the Naruto he knew. Since they swapped eyes, Narumi gained the flower petals while Naruto's star was replaced with her snowflake. Itachi continued, alright. Enough of this, shall we do the swap? Hi. 9:30 p.m. It's getting late, Sasuke. I shall take my leave soon, Itachi informed his brother. So soon? Ah well, I suppose it is. I shall leave for Konoha by first light, Sasuke replied. Itachi gave a kind smile, one that Sasuke would treasure for eternity. He put a hand on his younger brother's hair, ruffling it. Do me proud, Sasuke. The mysterious man dispersed into crows. I will, Sasuke replied to the empty hall. The next day, the Uchiha Saiyan woke up in an inn in a town nearby which he took temporary refuge in for the night. Grabbing his favorite weapon, he secured it to his belt before booking out and leaving for Konoha. At the same time, Naruto and Yugito got up from bed and left the hotel to return to the village. The capital and the town, being equidistant from Konoha, resulted unsurprisingly in both parties meeting each other along the way. What the hell are you doing here? Naruto asked, wary of the teenager he once called a friend. Sasuke shrugged nonchalantly. S-rank mission accomplished. I'm back to report to Tsunade. Naruto, distrusting him, got Yugito to flank him and escort him to the Hokage's office directly. Sasuke was totally relaxed as he entered the Leaf Village as if he had never left it. This caused some confusion and irritation on Naruto's part. What the hell was going on? Hokage's office. Ohio Tsunade-sama, Sasuke greeted as he entered the room with his two escorts. Sasuke, you're finally back, with Naruto and Yugito. Well shit, Tsunade cursed. That would force her to spill the beans, and by the looks of it, it was not going to end well. She rubbed her temple in irritation, already feeling a migraine coming on. Tsunade-sama, please explain this, Naruto requested in a sickly sweet tone. She sighed. Long story short, Sasuke finds out about the truth behind the massacre, awakens the Mangekyo, goes on a mission to destroy Orochimaru's base and assassinate the traitorous snake himself. Authorized by yours truly, and since it is an S rank, the information is not privy to anyone except him and myself, as well as the ANBU in the room. Naruto was about to cry out in anger when Yugito grabbed his hand, squeezing it to calm her irate husband down. Understandably, he was pissed off as he wasn't informed and basically fought his own friend for nothing at the Valley of the End. In fact, he had endangered the mission by planting the Amaterasu transcription seal in Sasuke's eyes to burn Orochimaru, as he was supposed to be a sleeper agent until he could kill the snake Sannin. Which ironically, the scientist trained him to do without knowing it until it was too late. That was also part of Tsunade's plan, to kill two birds with one stone by letting Sasuke get training while killing off Orochimaru after. What about Haku? You just left her alone there, unknowing of why you left. Naruto asked. The Uchiha shook his head. I was given permission to inform her as it concerned her. If she did not know what was going on, she might have stirred up more trouble than was worth and go crazy with worry when I was actually perfectly fine. She was just told to act like it, which brings me to my next point. To keep things realistic and hide the fact that I was in a mission, I couldn't inform my friends so that Orochimaru wouldn't suspect a thing should he have sent Kabuto to spy on Konoha. Naruto calmed down a bit, no longer so pissed but was still angry. He didn't know if he could forgive Tsunade for this, but he understood the reasons behind her actions. Sometimes, as the leader, one had to make decisions for the greater good, even if the people didn't see its purpose and hated one for it. That was something he had to learn if he was to become Hokage. The Yondaime's son grumbled, but then decided to smile and see the good side. Sasuke didn't actually defect on purpose. Welcome back, I suppose, Naruto said, sticking out his hand. The Uchiha shook it. Well, mission reports. We'll start with yours, Naruto, as it is shorter, Tsunade said. The Uzumaki started, going through the entire mission in detail. Tsunade was impressed with Yugito's performance, and as such decided to promote the Chunin. Yugito, I shall promote you to Jonin rank as this was a promotional mission, Tsunade declared, taking a Jonin vest from the closet in the office. Loyalty to the village, uprightness, leadership, discipline, commitment and responsibility, care for fellow shinobi and adventurous spirit, Yugito recited the 7 core values as the Hokage handed the special flak jacket to her. Compared to the Chunin vest, this one had more compartments. With the power vested in me as Hokage, I promote Uzumaki Yugito to Jonin rank. Tsunade decreed. Lead with pride and serve with dedication, Jonin. Hi. Hokage-sama, she replied as she put on the jacket. Congratulations, Yugito-chan, Naruto said, while Sasuke applauded lightly. As expected from the famous cat empress. Congratulations, Yugito-san, Sasuke said. Thanks, she replied to everyone. Now, Yugito, as a Jonin, your mission schedule will be quite tight, so expect little rest between missions. It can be as little as a day before your next mission, so do rest well. Dismissed, Tsunade advised. Yugito and Naruto left the room, and Sasuke carried on with his debrief of the 3-year S-rank mission. While it happened, silencer tags were in place. Sasuke said, I'll be taking out Danzo. But how? We don't have enough evidence to incriminate him, Tsunade asked. Oh, we do all right, Sasuke responded, smirking as he unsealed the contents of his scroll. Orochimaru's journals came tumbling out, revealing Danzo's involvement with the dead Nukenin. Tsunade smiled. Things were looking up, and by the next council meeting, they should be able to take out Danzo by the roots. With her position, they should be able to organize the next meeting by this evening. On a side note, you should go see Haku now, she's missing you terribly, Tsunade teased. Sasuke gave a dramatic flourish. At once, Hokage-sama. Haku's apartment. Knocks resounded on the door. Haku set down her steam iron and walked to the door, opening it. Yi Sasuke-kun. You're back, she cried happily, hugging him. Sasuke returned the embrace, hugging his lover tightly. She released him, blushing in embarrassment at her outburst. Sorry about that. Please come in. Sasuke took off his sandals, entering the house. Not much has changed around here, huh, he commented wistfully. Haku nodded. A smirk played on his lips. Except you, Haku-chan. You're much more beautiful, he teased, watching her blush in amusement. Flattery doesn't get you anywhere, she replied playfully. Oh, with you, it gets me on the bed, he countered, picking his girlfriend up bridal style and running into the bedroom. Sounds of love-making filled the house, as steam continued to rise from the forgotten iron. Hokage's office, 5 p.m. ANBU, get me the clan heads, civilian counselors and the 3 advisors. I want everyone at the council chambers by 5:15, is that clear? Hi, Hokage-sama. Council chambers, 5:10 p.m. The clan heads filed into the room one by one, while the civilians were already seated. The 3 advisors waited patiently for the remaining clan heads to enter the chamber, of which Naruto was part of. The Hokage was the last to enter at 5:15, before the ANBU closed the doors. Tsunade set her hat down at the head of the curved table. Now, I've summoned the council to pass judgment on a criminal. Who is he? Danzo asked. I'm glad you asked, she smirked. Shimura Danzo. What is the meaning of this, Tsunade-sama? He growled dangerously. You're a man of many crimes, Danzo. From treason to theft, you've done them all. Let me start with treason. Your first crime was keeping the ANBU route program active despite the Sandame's orders. While no doubt you had the good of Konoha in mind at the time, it gradually became your weapon. By having your own force of ANBU-level shinobi, it is already a danger to the villages. Its intentions are not established because it was not meant to exist in the first place. Secondly, you worked with my teammate Orochimaru. This drew gasps from the rest of the council, and they began to doubt the man. We retrieved Orochimaru's journals in an S-rank mission. They revealed that he was working closely with you to exchange genetic specimens. Specifically, the genes of the Sharingan. Which brings me to your theft of crime. Many Sharingans disappeared from the bodies of the dead Uchiha after the massacre, and that was immediately after you were allowed access. Also, you are believed to have stolen Uchiha Shisui's Mangekyo and implanted it into your right eye socket. Hiashi-san, please confirm this. The Hyuga clan head activated his Byakugan, looking through the bandages covering Danzo's right eye. That chakra, it's definitely Shisui's. After all, which Hyuga didn't know the chakra of Shunshin no Shisui? His gaze trailed down to the bandages covering his right arm. Hiashi gasped. You have 10 Sharingans implanted in your arm. So that confirms it. I do not believe we require further evidence to incriminate you. You're as good as a dead man, Danzo, Tsunade declared. Get him. The ANBU turned to catch him, however the elder was already out of his seat, bolting away. In a flash of orange, Naruto reappeared next to Danzo and grabbed his left arm. You ain't going anywhere, Danzo, Naruto muttered, eyes glowing crimson. A special someone wants to meet you. A swirling distortion began pulling the elder into what was Naruto's right eye. No matter how much Danzo tried to escape the blonde's grasp, his arm might as well have been in a vice grip. 3 seconds later, Danzo was completely sucked in, as well as Naruto, who teleported away to Training Ground 7. Training Ground 7. Danzo came tumbling out of midair and onto the grassy floor. When he got up, he flinched as he noticed the calm Uchiha standing nearby, hand on his sword. What are you doing here, boy? Sasuke growled. You have done injustice to the village, and to the Uchiha clan. Drawing his sword and pointing it to his right, at the memorial stone, he said, before these fallen heroes, I'll take my stand against this traitor. Your execution shall commence. Wordlessly, he charged at the elder. Danzo braced himself, before launching a barrage of kunai at Sasuke. The Uchiha deflected them easily with his Chikuto, and went straight for a vertical chop. Danzo was no pushover. He was, after all, a retired jonin. A kunai appeared in his hand, blocking the sword. With his bare strength, he deflected the blade and jumped into the air, spinning around to deliver a kick. Sasuke made to grab his leg, however Danzo dropped into a handstand and backflipped away with his left hand, evading the Uchiha's moves. When he ground to a halt, he put a hand to his lips. Futon. Shinkaha, wind style. Vacuum wave. A giant blade of wind shot out from his mouth and headed towards Sasuke. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu. A huge fireball emerged and flew towards the B-rank futon technique, clashing with it and cancelling both out due to the elemental advantage despite its C-rank status. Danzo took this chance and sprinted through the explosion towards Sasuke while unleashing a volley of shuriken at him. They were buzzing with chakra around their edges, clearly chakra propelled. With the Sharingan, they were deflected easily by his own shuriken. That was merely a distraction for Danzo to grab the teen by his collar and turn him around, throwing him into the sky while casting his jutsu. Futon. Shinku Renpa, wind style. Vacuum wave barrage. Multiple blades of wind flew towards Sasuke, who was vulnerable in midair, or so Danzo thought. A purple aura enveloped the Uchiha, protecting him from the blades by manifesting into a ribcage. When he landed unharmed, Sasuke's Susanoo had skeletal hands, in which there was a sword in one hand and a black orb in the other. From the orb, the black flames of Amaterasu were sent flying at the elder in the form of multiple projectiles. Danzo couldn't dodge them all, and was struck by one. Black flames consumed his body as he screamed out in pain. Suddenly, his form wavered, reappearing 5 meters to the left unscathed. Sasuke was analyzing what Danzo just did. What was that jutsu? However, it was too late as the elder was upon him. Futon. Shinkaha. Danzo cried, shooting an extremely focused blade of wind at Sasuke. In rapid retaliation, the Uchiha fired an arrow with a bow manifested from Susanoo. The chakra construct zipped through the Futon jutsu, dispersing it while on its path towards the elder. It pierced right through Danzo's stomach. However, the elder's form shimmered once again, disappearing like a mirage. He reappeared once again, totally without a scratch. Sasuke scowled. That should have killed him, he thought furiously. Danzo smirked, unwrapping his right arm's bandages. They fell to the floor, revealing 8 Sharingan implants. More importantly, he could see 2 closed portions of the skin which were eyelids. That matched the number of times he had revived. As this the feared Izanagi Nisan talked about. He thought, well, I just have to kill him 8 more times. With a war cry, he launched thousands of Amaterasu projectiles which rained down on the man relentlessly. Danzo revived once again, only to get stabbed in the back with a Chidori. Once more, he activated Izanagi, saving himself from a grisly death. This was getting annoying. He only had 6 more chances. Each time he used the Izanagi, it blinded an eye. The cost of altering reality and escaping death is the one most dear to an Uchiha, his Sharingan. Every time he used it, he subconsciously checked how many eyes on his arm he had left. In the heat of battle, there was simply no time to count how many times he used it, so it was easier to check his arm. That would be his downfall. Kaden. Goryuka no Jutsu. Sasuke intoned, the flames already rushing speedily across the field, engulfing Danzo in the fierce inferno. The elder's futon techniques were no match for Sasuke's Kaiden jutsus, so he decided to pull his trump card again. After he reappeared and the fire stopped burning, he emerged from the flames, a jutsu ready. Kuchios. Baku, summoning. Baku. A gigantic elephantine chimera appeared behind Sasuke, large enough to dwarf his Susanoo. It had tiger-like limbs and armor on the base of the trunk and between the eyes. It was dark orange in color with the exception of its trunk, legs and the markings around its eyes. Its feet were also striped, reminiscent of those of a tiger, and it also had huge tusks and what looks like a beard, as well as long, sharp claws. Turning back briefly, he thought, what the hell is that? The beast roared, before a strong wind picked up, sucking everything nearby towards its mouth, including trees and rocks. Danzo launched a new technique, one of his strongest. Futon. Shinku Taegyoku, wind style. Vacuum bomb. He expelled a powerful compressed ball of futon chakra which sailed straight through the air towards Sasuke's Susanoo. Baku's suction increased the intensity of the jutsu, which built up in power tremendously the more it flew, attracted by the summon's power. Sasuke braced for impact, and was surprised when the ball slammed against the chakra construct, causing cracks right before it exploded, completely destroying the level 1 Susanoo. Kuso. Sasuke cursed as his anchor was gone. He was now flying towards Baku's mouth. Suddenly, he got an idea. Kaiden. Uchiha Daien no Jutsu, fire style. Uchiha Great Fire Jutsu. He yelled, sending flames of great intensity at the huge summon. Its own suction turned against it as it increased the power of the fire jutsu, and when it finally entered its mouth, Baku was doomed. The firestorm exploded within the summon, dispelling it immediately. Danzo cursed his luck, and instinctively checked his arm. 6 left. Sasuke sprinted towards the Shimura, a Chidori in hand. Danzo backflipped away, knowing it was a short-range jutsu. He was mistaken. Chidori Iso, Chidori Sharp Spear. The Uchiha called. A beam of electricity shot out from the Chidori in his hand and headed for Danzo at high speeds. The elder ducked just in time, but his mind was blown further when Sasuke swiped his hand to the left and maneuvered the stream of electricity from so far away. I thought that was a one-shot jutsu. Apparently not, he thought just as it pierced his lung. Chidori Shinso, Chidori True Spear. Sasuke cried, placing his right hand on his left bicep and sending an extra surge of Raiden chakra across the lightning beam. When it reached the end, the line exploded and killed Danzo for the 6th time. Once again, the elder rewrote reality. He checked his arm. 5 left. Sasuke disappeared in a blur, reappearing before him. His right hand shot out in a hook, followed by his left which held a kunai, slashing Danzo's chest. He spun counterclockwise in a low kick, and then punched him with both hands like a battering ram. Jumping into the air, Sasuke performed a high kick which caught the elder in the face and dazed him. When he landed, the Uchiha created a single shadow clone which launched a volley of kunai at Danzo while the original brought a hand to his lips. Once the barrage ended, Sasuke ended the combo with a fireball which took him out. Izanagi. Danzo muttered and checked his arm again. 4 left. Sasuke breathed harshly. That shadow clone had been taxing on his chakra. Luckily it was only one. He could never understand how Naruto could spam thousands. Amaterasu. Kagutsuchi. He casted one after another, burning the man to death. Once again he was revived, with only 3 Sharingans left. The next thing Danzo knew, he was decapitated by Susanoo's sword. 2 left. Sasuke charged with all his might, plunging his sword into Danzo. 1 more left. Danzo moved to punch Sasuke, however he maneuvered behind him quickly, delivering a Chidori to his chest. Danzo coughed up blood. But no matter he did, he couldn't use Izanagi. But how? Look at your arm, Danzo. You rely so much on it. Earlier when I used my Goryuka, the flames prevented you from checking your arm temporarily, so I took the liberty of casting Genjutsu to make you think you had one more eye than you actually did. That did you in as you weren't as careful when you could rewrite reality, didn't it? Well, it's over for you. Not yet. The man choked out painfully. Ura Shisho Fuin, reverse tetragram ceiling. He cried in a last-ditch attempt to take out Sasuke. Alarmed, He withdrew his hand immediately and jumped as far back as he could while a black sphere shot out of Danzo's body, enveloping a giant part of the training ground. Naruto was seriously afraid for Sasuke's safety. At the start of the battle he had not seen the need to assist the Uchiha as he wanted to see the extent of Sasuke's abilities and he seemed to be doing just fine, but now his safety was in real danger. Materializing, he grabbed Sasuke and teleported both of them into Kamui's dimension in time to escape the giant sealing jutsu which sealed everything within a kilometer radius into the user's corpse. Needless to say, a huge part of the ground had been obliterated when they returned, including the memorial stone. They would have to rebuild it, but most importantly, Danzo was finally dead. After a debrief with the Hokage and the other counselors, the entire council was dismissed. Sasuke, you've shown your ability and quick thinking in this battle against Danzo. That, with your S-rank mission, is more than enough to qualify you for Jonin rank. Congratulations, Tsunade said. Sasuke nodded in acknowledgement. Naruto patted him on the back. Good job. The Uchiha thanked him before returning home as he had a lot to do. Naruto suddenly paled as he realized something important. Tomorrow is Yugito's birthday. July 24th coincidentally, that is tomorrow at the time of writing. Naruto said anxiously, looking at the calendar on the office wall. Tsunade smirked. Good luck planning. You're dismissed too. Namikaze compound. When Naruto returned home, he locked himself in the study and began planning an extensive schedule for tomorrow's activities. It was an important date not to be missed. When he finally done, he slept. Hopefully tomorrow would go by successfully without troubles. If only he knew how wrong he was. The world he knew was about to be turned upside down.